All right, so it's Todd Atkins. I'm here with another episode of Japan MMA Beat, and I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves. We'll go around. So Daniel, we'll start with you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Daniel Żywicki. I'm a combat sports commentator, writer, journalist in general, and of course, Japanese combat sports enthusiast. Been in Japan 3 times, and I've been at more RIZIN events than at KSW events. It's a fun fact.
All right, and J. Kristen Gary.
What's good, y'all? It's J. Christian Gary at Focus Fights Audio, and I'm just happy to be here on this very special program. And I know that y'all fight fans are definitely looking forward to what's in store for not just the RIZIN Fighting Federation, but for JMMA in general. I would say that Andrew Benjamin, my podcast partner on the We Are RIZIN podcast, is about to join us, but right now he's a little bit delayed. So, he'll come in when he gets in. Jay Wolf, what say you?
Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for having me on. This is Jay Wolf. You guys know me. I'm sometimes on the We Are RIZIN podcast, sometimes on Teep's show for the Bellator previews and review shows. And I'm just real happy to be here. Thanks to Todd Atkins for having me on this show right now to talk about the Epic RIZIN and the Bellator versus RIZIN show. I also want to make sure to give Todd a shout out because he was the one that broke the news about possibly PFL possibly buying Bellator. And Scotty Cokes and Bellator was recently asked about that in Japan. And he said that it wasn't happening, but I was upset that the person that asked it didn't give Todd Atkins credit for the scoop. He should have said, of course, Todd Atkins is reporting that, PFL, blah, blah, blah. And then Scotty Coast would say, oh, well, Todd Atkins is, reporting is a little bit, not, we're getting an influx of cash from investors. We're not being sold. So I just think that would have been cooler if we got a shot from Todd Atkins, who broke the internet with the initial news about the PFL possibly buying Bellator. So I'm just real happy to be on the show with you, Todd, and everybody here. Daniel Żywicki, KS Polish legend of combat sports. Jay Krish Gary from the We Are RIZIN podcast. Can't wait for Andrew Benjamin to get here as well from the We Are RIZIN podcast. And just can't wait to talk with you, Todd. And just, again, thank you for having me on here.
I wouldn't say the Coker denied it. He was kind of saying, remember, Dana denied that the UFC was for sale right up until they sold. But,
yeah, I know.
Coker did say they're looking for somebody. They're looking for a partner. I don't think they're going to get one. But if the owner of PFL was in the Middle East recently, raising investment cash. So who's to say that their partner is not PFL? So I don't think he totally denied it. And Andrew just got in here, which is awesome. So Andrew, we were doing an introduction, so you can just go right ahead.
Oh, hey, Andrew Benjamin, We Are RIZIN podcast, also a writer for MMAsucker.com. Yeah, that's basically it. I don't know what else.
All right, Dan, you're always kind of like the host of this show, I would say. So what do you want to start with here?
Definitely, we should start from RIZIN 43. It's the very first time when not even RIZIN, but Japanese major promotions MMA promotions go to Hokkaido, to Sapporo, because neither Pride or Dream held a show there. We will have a show on this month, June 24th. It's a Japanese date because I know you guys might have a different date because you are from the United States and have different time zones.
Well, yeah, you're right about that, Daniel. The event for us will start at midnight Eastern on July 24th. That is midnight Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific. So right around the time between July 23rd, June 23rd and June 24th. You can say that.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's Friday night for us in America, and the prelims start They said it starts about 8:15, 8:30 Pacific time. Excuse me, 11:30 Eastern time for the prelims.
Okay. My start time is it's a bit different because in Poland there will be June 24th, but it will start. It's a 7 hours of difference, so at 7 a.m. because we have summertime right now in Eastern Europe. So I would like to start from something not necessary, but I would like to mention something about this because it's very long show, because it's 17 fights. I think that it's New Year's Eve event, long event.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's a New Year's Eve long event because in the case of the 4 in the case of the 4 fights on the prelim, on the undercard, about 3 of those fights are 3 3-minute rounds, or maybe all of those fights are 3 3-minute rounds. I don't know, but still though, that undercard, that prelim card is going to fly very quickly. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and I would like to just mention about the fact that the 2 p.m., which is the start of the event, official start of the event, is a start of grand opening, because the 4 prelim fights will take place before the opening, so it starts at 12:30 afternoon, and it will be in Poland. It will be a bit earlier. So I will have to just get up a bit earlier than usual.
But for us in the United States, it'll be 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific when the prelim portion of the event start, and I think it's probably going to be on Abima TV, well, their stream on YouTube and Abima, of course. And then the main card won't, as we mentioned before, for the main card, it probably won't start for you at around 7 a.m. It'll probably start for you, Daniel, at around 7 a.m., which means midnight Eastern, 9 Pacific for us in the States.
The prelims will start at 5:30 a.m. So a bit earlier, but I said about it. I would like to.
It's okay, Daniel. Take your time. Just relax and follow through.
I would like to talk about if you remember last event of RIZIN, which had 17 fights on the card. Because I'm trying to just find something on Wikipedia, and I've even went back to the 2017 because there was a show in Fukuoka, but it had just 16 fights. Maybe New Year's Eve, and I think this is the most probably answer about it, but I'm not sure yet. I'm just searching about it.
How many did the RIZIN versus Bellator one and the New Year's Eve collaboration mega event that just happened this year or last year? How much of that? Because remember, it was like 5 RIZIN versus Bellator bouts. Then there was about 11 or 12 bouts before that on the RIZIN 40. How many was it, Todd?
Something like 15 or 16 fights.
Oh, okay. So it's only 9 then?
Yeah, I remember Zach commenting on that. It wasn't like that when I was there, I don't know why they do so many. I don't know if the fans want it. What do you have you guys heard anything about why they're doing that? I wouldn't want to sit through it, but is it something that fans are wanting now? Yeah.
Shoot, me, I want as many as possible. I'd love it to be like the K Festa where they have 30 fights, 12 hours of fighting, all the rule set, that'd be so awesome. But I think in the Epic RIZIN Discord, that we came to with the J Kick fans that are also in the Discord as well. We came to a sweet spot of about 15 fights that was agreed to. Would be like the perfect, show that's not too long and not too short. And so I think, anything right around 15 fights is great. And like you guys were saying, the prelims, the 4 fights in the prelims is going to go by real quick. So that starts at 8:30 Pacific time, 11:30 Eastern time. And then you said, Daniel said that
I
the
hate
main
to interrupt
card-
Jay Wolf, but as I mentioned before, the fights are going to be, well, you're going to have 2 kickboxing fights. Those are 3 3-minute rounds. As far as the MMA portion, it'll be 2 5-minute rounds, special rules.
So, okay, yeah.
Oh, sorry, Jay Wolf.
Oh, no, I just want to finish the point of saying that it's going to go by quick. So we're really, the card, I think that'll be about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and then the main card is going to be, so it's like you take off 4 fights for the prelims, and the main card is actually 13 fights. So I don't think it'll be too long, like you guys are saying. So
right now I'm researching the things, and the last New Year's Eve event had 16 fights on the card. But I have to check the infamous RIZIN 34 event. I think it had lots of positions on the card, and I have to count it. But I think last that long card, which wasn't New Year's Eve, was that Fukuoka event in 2017, if not RIZIN 34.
Pride was always like 8 to 10 fights, so I don't know why they're doing.
I get it. I think I might have the easiest answer to that, because there is this new modern philosophy among promoters, wrestling, MMA. Same thing with movies. Movies are much longer now than ever before. There's this idea that they need to hold our attention for as long as possible. And if anything is short, we go to our phone, or we become disinterested. It's this. And listen, in pro wrestling, I go to indie shows all the time that are like around the corner from my apartment, and these are like indie shows in a fucking warehouse, and they go about like 6 hours long, and it's absurd. No, it's entirely this new modern philosophy that longer is better. Sorry, J Wolf, a 30 fight card is not something that the average person is going to want to sit through. So yeah, like you said,
you sat through K Festa, didn't you? Didn't you sit through K Festa?
So I watched K Festa when they uploaded it to YouTube, because when someone sent me it through whatever, I saw that runtime and I'm like, I cannot watch that. Listen, it used to be a time, and just sorry, I'm just gonna quickly finish my point. It used to be a time where the only movies that were like 3 hours long were movies like Lord of the Rings, Ben-Hur, Dances with Wolves. Now we have Disney movies. We have like fucking Little Mermaids now, like crossing the 2 hour line for no reason. And so yeah, it's just entirely this new modern philosophy. I absolutely fucking hate it so much.
Oh man, I love it. You guys see Avatar? Avatar was like 4 hours. I loved it.
I don't have such experience with that long movies, but I've checked how long RIZIN 34 was, and it was so far. I think it was the longest. It had the longest card because it had 17 cards on the 17 fights on the card, and that RIZIN 43 it's the same thing because it has 17 fights.
And it's interesting you bring that up, because that was at the time when they had the Fuji TV deal. So I don't want to say that they had an excuse to make things longer, sync it up with Fuji TV. Now they don't. I think the shows are getting are much longer now.
Yes, for sure.
They don't have a TV deal anymore. I'm sorry.
But beyond, Andrew, I'm not. You're right, because if you remember, infamous RIZIN 19 show, Osaka again. It was a doomed city. it had monstrous intermissions, 1.5 of an hour intermissions, from what I remember. It was an absurd, but I'm not talking about, you know, overall length of the an event, but just number of fights. As
Okay.
we said before,
Gotcha.
yeah,
Gotcha.
it can have some kickboxing events, kickboxing bouts, which are 3-minute rounds. So it's it's shorter, even if it will go to the distance. That's why K1 is doing that monster cards of, you know, 25 bouts on the cards.
I also, from a financial standpoint, I think these promotions, whoever, they book these shows for a block of time, and I think they also kind of want to maximize, like, oh, hey, we booked the whatever Tokyo Dome for 10 hours, so we gotta have a show that's 9 hours 50 minutes, or else we're not gonna, you know, make our money's worth, you know, or, you know, get you know, spent our money wise. So I think that's also the financial idea behind it, that, yeah, you know, is, you know, come as close to the amount of time that we have booked this venue for.
Plus,
If
they
you
want to give
will,
the fans the money's worth too, right?
No,
If-
no. I can tell you for a fact, Gabriel, not a lot of listen, and CJ said that there were fans that were leaving that K Festa show because and falling asleep during the show as well. And also what you do is, by, you know, with a show that's also that long, is that, you know, Japan, well, if we're going to talk about Japan specifically, Japan does not have 24/7 subways. Todd, you know that for a fact because you're in Japan. Daniel, you know that for a fact because you're in Japan. And if your show's on a Sunday, you have work the next day. Listen, people are gonna will leave your show and not come to the next one, guaranteed, because it's gonna be like, why the fuck? Well, I almost missed work because K Festa was, because I was at K Festa for 7 hours. So, you know, it's not a good thing. It's really not. Listen, if what is it? What is it? Quality over quantity. That's what it is. Quality over quantity.
You know what you're talking about, Drew? You're talking about the filthy casuals that leave early. Those are filthy casuals. The hardcores are the ones that are going to stay for the entire 9-hour show of K Festa.
but you know, there's a good point. Exception is a New Year's Eve. But why? Because the transport service is active for 24 hours. This is one of the few days in Japan when there is an exception about, you know, the public transport service.
You know, I bet you know another reason why so many fights, because they put so much kick on it. There's like, I was counting them on the main card. There's 4 kick fights, and then on the prelims there's 2 kick fights. So that's 6 kick fights altogether. So that means we only get 9-10 mixed martial arts bouts.
But you have also 2 MMA fights, but in under kickboxing distance, 3-minute rounds. What I wanted to say about K1, if you will look at the K1 calendar, you don't have grand show every month, even not per 2 months. You have 4 or 5 big shows of K1, so they are using that space for pack as much fights as they can, because if you will take a look at their business model, you will see that, of course, they are doing monthly Korakuen shows, but under the Crash banner. If it's something like you know, the pyramid. If you are fighting on a regular basis in K1, you are rarely going to crash. If you are going to crash, it means that you have downgraded. RIZE is a bit different because they are mixing up the fighters who are fighting on a Korakuen show, Korakuen Hall shows. They are also appearing on the main shows, on the major shows, of the World Series shows. So this is the difference between RIZE and K1, and you know, the number of fights. Okay, guys, I would like to just be back on the main topic. So RIZIN 42, we have Kleber Koike against Chihiro Suzuki. 43.
I think you
yeah.
mean, RIZIN 43, which is coming up in 2 weeks' time. You're talking about the main event, which is Kleber Koike Herbst. I call him Kleber Koike Herbst. Y'all call him that without the Herbst part. He will be defending his RIZIN Featherweight Championship at 145 pounds, 66 kilos versus Chihiro Suzuki.
And this will be the first time when he is defending his title. And what I wanted to say more, it will be probably the first time when we will have a title fight. This will be the first title fight of RIZIN this year. It's kind of funny, and it probably it won't be a 3-rounder anymore.
No, it most likely won't be a 3-rounder because I think Nobuyuki Sakakibara, the boss of RIZIN, basically stated he wants to do away with 3 5-minute round title fights. He wants to either do the Pride rules, which is first round 10 minutes, second and third round 5, or the traditional, well, now traditional under the unified rules of mixed martial arts, 5 5-minute rounds.
Okay, so it may have 3 rounds, but the first round can have 10 minutes, and there will be 2 5-rounders. But it's not 3 times 5 minutes anymore for the title fights.
That's one of the weird things about this card, because this card, different fights have different rules, and I think that's the one thing that RIZIN needs to do, just like come under like some sort of unified sort of how long of like rounds and times, because we got on this show we got some MMA matches that in the prelims that are going to be 5 minutes, 2 rounds. That's like deep level amateur.
That's exactly what they are. They're amateur.
They're not like. Have you seen the records of them, of the guys fighting? They got like 19-5 taking on 0-2, something like that. And then
mismatch level.
You have kickboxing. I forgot which one. I think the Geji Omeno Suzuki fight that has elbows allowed, but the other kickboxing matches don't allow elbows. That's the one thing, is that it's kind of like, remember when they didn't allow elbows where they for certain fights that they would always have to get permission from both fighters, and it would always be Satoshi who'd always say no to the elbows, or the shoes. Some fighters would wear shoes, and now they don't allow that anymore, I don't believe. That's just one thing, is that like I'm just looking at all these fights. All these fights have like, it's like an amalgamation of like just like custom rules.
You know what,
like,
Andrew? I get what you mean, because some of these fights just feel off, especially when it comes down to the fight before intermission, Minoru Philip Kimura versus Daryl Lukoku. That fight's going to be a mismatch, but that fight is also not going to have elbows allowed, unlike the fight that'll take place after intermission, Umeno versus Suzuki, aka Mr. Yabaidaro versus Hiroki Suzuki.
And then, like you said, like the title match with Kleber Koike and Chihiro is going to be 3 rounds, 3 minutes, I believe. And so
3 rounds, 5 minutes.
3 rounds, 3 rounds, 5 minutes. So that's got to be, they got to get rid of that shit. 3 rounds, 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I saw that. I'm wrong. It's 5 minutes times. Sorry, 3 5 minutes rounds. So they had not changed the distance.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. On the presser for the Bellator versus RIZIN presser, you're absolutely right. No, Sakakibara-san did say that's exactly what, like you were saying. We're either going to go to the Pride rules, 10-minute first rounds, and then 2 5-minute rounds after that, or they're going to go to the 5 by 5 minute rounds, 25-minute title fights. And I think they're going to start that at the Super RIZIN.
Is this kind of like when Bellator? Is this going to be after the fact when Romero thought like, oh, I'm fighting 5 rounds against whoever it was? Or is this going to be like that? Where are we going to get something like that where Kleber is going to go distance and Kleber's going to be like, oh wait, I thought I was going to have 5 minutes. Or no, Chihiro will say that.
Hey, however it happens, just make it happen. I mean, I love it. Because we've been asking for that. For the longest time, ever since the RIZIN title fight started happening, we've been asking for him to, go to 25 minutes with the Pride rules.
Just one other quick, one funny observation about this card. we got 3 Suzukis on this card. We got Chihiro, we got Hiroki, we got Hiroaki, and Hiroaki and Hiroki follow one another. I don't know who comes first, but you know, if you're a Suzuki, if you love the name Suzuki, this is your fucking card, because I think they got every major fight with the name Suzuki to be on this fucking card.
Suzuki should sponsor this event, by the way. But
Yes.
but by the way, of course, for those who doesn't know, Hiroki Suzuki, who is fighting under elbowed kickboxing rules against the Genji Umeno, is a brother of Chihiro. Then we had Hiroaki Suzuki, who isn't related with the 2 Suzukis. What would you like to say about the main event beside that goddamn distance? I'm fucking disappointed. Sorry guys, but just seen that, and I can't believe that we will have again that 3-round nonsense.
You gotta start Daniel. Disappointment and RIZIN go together like bees and
Oh, it
honey.
doesn't. Stop lying. Stop lying, Drew. Don't disappoint. You talk about the puss FL, what you're talking about.
336,000 viewers this week, J Wolf. Let's see if 300 people buy RIZIN 43. Sorry. Yeah. Over here in the United States. Sorry.
The first question is Chihiro able on this level? Is he able to take the belt from Kleber?
Oh, well, I certainly hope so. I mean, I like to call him Chihiro Suzuki, because I mean he's probably he's a crossover fighter. I mean, he fights in mixed martial arts and kickboxing, and he originally crossed over from mixed martial arts to kickboxing and then back to mixed martial arts. So, I mean, as far as I'm really excited to see him. I hope that he wins, to be honest with you, because I would love to see him just, rep for the J Kick crew and just, have the belt and be, a champion in mixed martial arts. And then he could, have that belt and then go on and challenge in kickboxing as well. I think it'd be fantastic. So I'm really hoping Chihiro wins.
It's without a doubt he will have a huge advantage standing up. But if he is able to just not getting taken down and not to be submitted by Kleber, we all know that Chihiro fought. It was a last-minute call, but he fought with Masakazu Imanari, who is also a great grappler, world-class grappler, and he dealt with him very much. But Kleber is a bit different. He's not focusing just on leg locks, and he's a bigger fighter. So more, he will be more stronger than Imanari, who used to fight in lower classes than featherweight, but in featherweight as well.
I can tell you the big difference. Suzuki, oh no, that's not Suzuki. Kleber forces you down to the ground, and if he doesn't force you down, he tricks you into going down to the ground. And so that you hear the thing with Imanari, you know what he's gonna do 100% of the time, and then but with Kleber, the fun, he catches you. He is like an anaconda. He's like a snake. He can catch you so fast and without warning. And if that doesn't work, then yeah, he will force you down to the ground. That's what he did. That's what he did with Mikaru, I believe, in their fight. And then I remember with the Kyle Lagwan fight. Yeah, Kyle Lagwan went for a takedown, and then got choked out. So yeah, but here's I'm going by that. I'm gonna be the awful fight that he had with Pitbull really told me a lot that he's afraid of anybody who's like a legitimate striker. And I would probably say Suzuki is at that level, given his kickboxing stuff and the amount of people he's knocked out. So if that's the same Kleber, in that Pitbull fight that's going to be in this fight, then oh boy, this will be the easiest fight that Chihiro's probably ever had in his career.
Well, I don't think it's gonna be that easy, but I mean, it's gonna be a huge. If he's able to win, it's gonna be a huge win for him.
No, if it's against, if that Clever that fought Pitbull, then yeah, this will be easy because this will be a guy who doesn't want to engage at all, and who's going to try to just go down to the ground, and just Pitbull was able to nullify that shit so easily, and then Chihiro should assuming that he's training smart, will do the exact same thing. That's it. We know that, and I guess I don't know, Daniel, since you probably saw Kleber a lot more in KSW than any of us, that's always been his weakness, is against guys who are strong strikers, right?
Mateusz Gamrot wasn't. He hasn't been always a good striker. He always was a wrestler. First and foremost, he was physically very strong, and I think it's maybe a main factor in this fight, because when Kleber was fighting with Gamer, the whole plan of Mateusz Gamrot was not being taken down by Kleber, and this was the main point of his game plan. As we could see in the Pitbull's fight, the plan was really similar, just not being taken down. And I think that there's always the same plan against guys like Kleber. No one wants to grapple with him, to make a grapple exchanges with Kleber. And right now, Chihiro will have to do the same, and I think he's aware that he will have to do exactly the same plan like every other Kleber's opponent. But it depends on the take the defensive grappling skills and the defensive wrestling skills, and about the athleticism, the physical power. If as you said before, Kleber is sometimes just throwing you down, is forcing you to go to the ground, and this will be the main thing that Chihiro will have to be aware about. Anyone wanted to say something about the main event?
You know what? I can just go ahead and say this. When it comes down to Kleber Koike-Herbst, the only person that can pretty much make this fight turn into a complete train wreck is him. Other than that, he's pretty much been dominant ever since he came into the RIZIN Fighting Federation a few years ago at the behest of Roberto Satoshi de Souza and, of course, Banzai Jiu-Jitsu. I mean, you, Daniel, saw him compete in KSW when he was dominating all them fighters. I mean, we're pretty much just seeing the apex of what Kleber Koike-Herbst can do. The only person that can stop him from compelling himself to greatness is him. And I think if he even makes one mistake against Chihiro Suzuki on June 24th, it might be the biggest downfall of his career, even though he'll still find ways to bounce back. But still, though, only one mistake can ruin Kleber Koike-Herbst's RIZIN featherweight title reign.
The main question about the main event is what in theory will be the better outcome of this fight for RIZIN. The defense of Kleber and new and Suzuki will be if Suzuki will be the new champ.
I think the short. Oh, sorry, Jay.
No, go ahead. No, you go first.
I think the short answer is neither. I think you kind of got the problem is that I don't think this is what RIZIN had intended, like in their long run. They're hoping that this will be like Mikaru being champion. at this point, whether that be Mikuru versus Chihiro, Mikuru versus Clever, whoever. But I don't think I think this was.
I don't think we go, dude. I'm telling you right now, if Mikuru Asakura faces off against Kleber Koike Earps, Mikuru will get his ass kicked again.
Oh, that's not a foregone conclusion. You never know the different training this time. He better prepared, knows the opponent. It could go down. It doesn't always go the same way.
Also, just random. I see J Wolf. I absolutely agree with that. Especially because there is a blueprint to be clever. It's only following the blueprint that's hard to do, especially with him. By the way, Christian, you're the only one who calls him Clever Koike Earps. You know why they don't call him Clever Koike Earps in Japan, right?
No, I don't.
Because Earps is a hard name for Japanese people to pronounce. That's why they just call him Clever Koike. There's a lot of Brazilians in Japan that are called Koike anyway. So I don't want to say it's a common name, but it's a common Brazilian name in Japan. But
in other words, you want me to drop the ERB?
Oh, I don't care. I just feel bad that you're the only one who I feel bad you're the only one who call him Clever Koike
part
Earps.
of his name, right?
I just feel bad you always call him Clever Koike Earps, wasting all that precious oxygen. Anyway, I just wanted to say, quickly, best outcome for RIZIN. I don't think either. Listen, this is being they're sticking this show on Sapporo main event. I don't think this was what they were hoping for. This was not in their whatever game plan was a Suzuki versus Clever match. Problem with Suzuki is he has no personality. Unfortunately.
Drew, are you hanging out with Hunter Biden or something? Drew, this is crazy. Are you on drugs? Dude, Hiro Suzuki is a budding superstar if he can win the title. He's already got star status in Japan. I mean, his from his walkout, he gets a pop from the fans, but now if he can win the title, he's gonna be a budding superstar. I think. I can't believe you guys are.
His notoriety is pales in comparison to even I'm not gonna say Mikuru or Ren, but even like Kyoji Horiguchi or Reina or Kana Azakura, he is on the lower totem pole of notoriety when it comes to RIZIN fighters. You can confirm that with CJ as well. Clever has the Satoshi rub, so he's got a little bit extra. But the problem is it's kind of these are two. For RIZIN, these are two. See, this is also the difference between RIZIN and Pride now. Is that now the whole thing is that having a Japanese star is what sells now. Now Suzuki is Japanese, but he's a half-fu. He's like I think Russian or Persian, I believe. This is who they want, people that can go on talk shows and all that stuff, who have personality, who have social media followings. Suzuki doesn't have that. Clever doesn't have that. Yeah, it's a lose. It's not a lose-lose for RIZIN, but it's not a win-win either, unfortunately, in my opinion.
Hey, that's how you build stars in Japan from the Almighty Pride FC era. Todd knows this. Todd was actually there, and he knows this, that you put the Japanese fighters against great international fighters. That's how you get Sakurabas. And, this right here, this matchup, this is a great international fighter, Clever, versus a budding star Japanese fighter in Suzuki. So I think my personal opinion is I think that the Epic RIZIN wants Suzuki to win because that'd be another Japanese star for them. Even if, like Drew said, he's half or whatever. I still think that. I mean, I love Chihiro. I want him to win badly.
I think RIZIN hopes that somehow it's a double DQ and they vacate the title and they could just shoehorn Mikuru versus Saito in there, or Mikuru versus Ren for the title somehow.
Someone I would compare it to is like, Horiguchi wasn't really anybody that nobody knew who he was, but he was beating so many good fighters that they couldn't hold him off. You know what I mean? If whether he had personality or not, wouldn't have mattered because he was just winning. So
right.
if, you know, like if Suzuki could do that or whatever, you know, that's his way to do it. Then some guys have to do it that way. They're just not, it's not in their personality to be outlandish or whatever you want to call it. Even Gomi, you know, Gomi wasn't a big star. And I mean, Shuto people knew who he was, but Shuto's a small event. Then he went into Pride Bushido and was like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So because he was winning, he was beating people. So
Be the international fighters too.
right, correct. Absolutely. No, Shuto's a small event. It wasn't like Gomi was a household name, but once he got into Pride Bushido, it was like he was one of the top guys.
I
I
wouldn't
would
say that.
hesitate to call Kleber at this point international fighter. He's been living in Japan long enough that he's no longer international in the way Jay was saying. I'm sorry, Daniel.
Yeah, you know, I wouldn't say that Chihiro doesn't have a personality, but it's, I would say that it's still on a developing level. He is not just, you know, self-made like Mikuru, who is very well known, but mainly because of his YouTube activities. And you know, it's just accidentally he's a fighter too.
Mikuru's an
Besides being
outlier.
a
I think it's unfair to compare any of the other fighters because he's such an outlier in terms of notoriety that like, yeah, I think it's unfair to like compare him to. But I mean or Ren, you know, I think because they supersede the MMA world. You know, they are well known. I could my own experience in Japan. I saw multiple people watching Breaking Down on their phones in the subway numerous days. So yeah, that's Mikuru is something else when it comes to fame. Sorry, Polish Hammer, go ahead.
Yes, definitely, and Ren has his specific image. You know, funny but weird asshole, and he's trying to do some things like, you know, that very long speech before the Okinawa show last year. It had just one 4-letter word in English, and he has the, you know, the idea on himself, on his image. But I don't think that it's the only way to, you know, make the name marketable. I think okay, because it's Kleber, it's more like you know, Satoshi's friend. He is just, you know, promoted by this because there's a, you know, bunch of Brazilians from Shizuoka Prefecture that went to Japan someday, and they are facing you know, all the life obstacles, and right now they are champions. This is the main storyline. And
I mean, I wouldn't say that Kleber Koike is more like Roberto Satoshi de Souza's friend. They're more like a brother. I mean, that entire crew at Bonsai Jiu-Jitsu is more like a brotherhood than a friendship.
I've just, you know, said that in a bit, you know, just out. I don't know how to say, just simple thing, because in theory they are totally they are friends in theory, but it's the, you know, the bond between them, it's much tighter than usual friendship. Just to be you know, just
Take your time,
make things clear. Oh, to be clear, yeah, this was the word that I was thinking about. And about the Chihiro, I wouldn't, as I said before, it's developing, and we will see how he can do it. If he will keep winning, and he will be the next champ, and maybe he will beat Mikuru if there will be this kind of fight, or Vugar. stuff like this. That's
Yep,
that's
and
all
remember-
about that's all about the main event.
You know, you're talking about Mikuru and the star power that he has. Where did he get a lot of that star power from? From his appearances on the Epic RIZIN on huge shows. Both him and his brother, the Azakura Action Bros, Japan's Diaz Bros. The reason that they're such stars is partially due to the Epic RIZIN and their appearances on RIZIN. So I mean,
that's
oh
I'll
please,
give- I'll
you
give- I'll
say
give-
that
I'll
RIZIN
give-
had
I'll give
no
a third-
part in
I'll
helping
say-
to make a star? Come on.
Guy became famous on YouTube. He became famous on YouTube because of his skits where he would dress up as a geek and then like start shit with people and then like actually like try like threaten to beat the shit out of them because he's a fighter. And then Mikaru's was all breaking down.
Breaking Down was after RIZIN, though. Breaking Down was after his appearance got famous on RIZIN. That's when he started the Breaking Down.
He started
Remember?
breaking, yeah, but none of his. I mean, as Charlie has said, when he's on talk shows or shows now, they call him like Breaking Down promoter, whatever. They don't say RIZIN fighter.
Yeah, well, okay.
I'll say,
Then
I'll say,
it's
I'll
all
say,
Breaking Down. RIZIN had nothing to do with it. RIZIN had
don't
nothing to
think-
do with it. Okay, tell Hunter Biden I said hello.
okay.
No, I mean, there's
I got
always
my
going to be a
laptop, I got my
couple of
laptop. I got my
There's
laptop.
always gonna
That's
be
me,
a-
J-Wolf.
couple of ways to do it. You know, like I said with Horiguchi, you know, you had Kid Yamamoto was like born to be a star in MMA.
I'll say that.
And-
I guess I'm sorry, Todd. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
He brought along Horiguchi, who was more, you know, Horiguchi is kind of shy and not outgoing like him, the opposite personality. But he won so much,
So I guess
it,
here's a
it
better
didn't
way to
matter,
put-
you know.
a better so RIZIN, they didn't become famous through RIZIN, but by the money they made in RIZIN. That's how they were able, that's how Mikuru was able to do his whole breaking down thing. So I have credit to RIZIN, have credit to breaking down.
All right, it's better than none. All right, I'll take it. So you guys want to move on from the main event, or you want to keep talking about the main event?
I would say that we will move on to the rest of the card because I think we was talking. We've been talking enough about the main event.
All right, lead the way, Daniel.
And we broke down the main event. What would you like to say about the rest of the fights? Any particular fight that you would pay attention for?
Well,
of course,
to be
me-
honest,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Jay Krish.
I mean, to be honest, outside of a few fights, and obviously there's going to be an intermission after the 7th fight on the card. But you look down the rest of the card, and you have to basically peel the layers back like an onion. You know that Yusuke Yachi is gonna basically treat him. I mean, what am I trying to say? You know, Yusuke Yachi is gonna treat Zach Zane like, and I hate to go philosophical on y'all, like a Christian being thrown to the lion's den.
Yes, I
I'm
love it.
sorry.
No, don't ever apologize for Christian references. I love it, Jay Krish.
Understood, but still though, we all know what's gonna happen in the co-main event. We all know Zach Zane ain't got a chance against Yusuke Yachi. So I mean, moving down the card as I'm basically looking down the list of fights that are on this card. I mean, I know it's around there somewhere, but still though. I mean, do you have the card in front of you, Daniel?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so what's next? I mean, what's before the co-main event between Yusuke Yachi and Zach Zane?
But sorry, just to make off top. Maybe it's not off top because I would like to say something about Yachi and make a question about him.
Okay, and you know
what-
what? I got the card right in front of me. Let me go ahead and run down the card real quick, Daniel, before you
Okay,
get to your
but-
thoughts.
What do you think? Which face of Yachi we will see this time? He will go into the wrestler mode once again, or he will try to just strike with Zach Zane?
He's gonna probably go into the wrestler mode and look to submit Zach Zane because, as we seen the last time Zach Zane competed in RIZIN, he was starched. I mean, he was starch pressed and ready to fold. So
I can't
Yes.
lie. I'm hoping that Yachi loses because it would just be the cherry on the top for how RIZIN just has utterly failed in trying to push Yachi. I would feel bad for him, but man, it's just I know we all think that he should beat Zayn. Man, there's that percentage, there's that little 1%, that he just fucks up and then he gets knocked out. It's entirely possible. It's really possible at this stage of it. I think he's gonna play it safe. But there's still that.
no,
I think he's definitely gonna play it
he's not
safe.
gonna play it safe. I mean, if you look at it, Zach Zane is a 15-14 fighter. I don't think he's played it safe throughout his entire career. I think that Yusuke Yachi is going to probably run over this man and make it feel like it was just another day at the office.
That'd be awesome.
He better, because he's been hot and cold for the the last half of his career.
We're gonna get the Boyd
Yeah.
Allen. We're gonna get the Yachi versus Boyd that fought Boyd Allen.
Yeah, he better run him over.
Just to be safe. This isn't Yachi jumping bean full of excitement energy 1.0 anymore. This is what stage are we at now? 4.0, 5.0 with him.
I mean, come to think of it, you're basically giving Yusuke Yachi so many reboots. I thought he was on American Online for a second.
I feel like that. I feel like, this is supposed to be his moment. This is supposed to be his thing. Nah, man, listen, he's not the second coming of Kid Yamamoto that RIZIN was so desperately trying to make him. He actually, funnily enough, he's probably the most famous fighter on this card. By name value.
You can say that. You can say that.
No, I guarantee that if we go to social media, we look at all the fighters. I guarantee Yachi's got to have the most amount of social media followers.
I think Yuta Kubo's got him beat.
I don't know if
might beat him.
I don't know if you remember how during the pandemic RIZIN took the Yogibo sponsorship. Why? Because of the CEO of the Yogibo Japan is a self-convinced Yachi's fan. That simply.
Exactly.
Is Yogibo going to sponsor this one or no?
I'm sorry.
Oh, I was saying, since Yachi's on this card, is Yogibo going to sponsor this one again or no?
Oh no, I think they left a long time ago.
2 years ago, because last year the main sponsor of RIZIN was Shonen Beauty Clinic, and this year it's no title sponsor, but it seems that Unext will get involved.
Of course, Unext will get involved because they're going to get involved with the Super RIZIN card. Now, let's go ahead and run down the rest of the card while we still have time to talk about this event.
Okay, maybe not about each fight, but the interesting ones.
Well, I mean, I do have the card in front of me, Daniel. So, let's just run down. No, wait, actually, and I'm basically running it down from bottom to the top as far as main card goes. Before the co-main event, we got the tri-main event: Hideki Shiretsukine versus Mikio Ueda, heavyweights. Then featherweights: Hiroaki Suzuki versus Taisei Nishitani. Then King Genji Umeno, aka Mr. Yabaidaro, versus Hiroki Suzuki. Kickboxing rules at 140 pounds, elbows allowed. Philip Minoru Kimura will take on Philip Minoru Kimura will take on the supposed real Black Panther. Andrew, you probably know more than I do. Daryl Okoku. Yuta Kubo will take on Takeaki Karate Kinoshita, the brother of Yusaku Kinoshita. Saori Oshima will take on, if I remember correctly, I know her name is Salt, that she's facing off against, but her opponent's real name is Furuku
Hasegawa.
Furuko Hashigawa. She's the current strawweight queen of Pancrase champion, right?
Yes, that's what it says on Tapology.
Yeah. Sari Oshima versus Furuko Salt. Fuck. See, don't ever put me around names where I just simply have a brain fart, because you know I'm gonna fuck those up.
Hey,
Just call her Salt.
Just
Just
on the
call her
name.
Salt. It's the easiest name in the world. Just call her Salt.
Okay. Sari Oshima versus Haruka Salt Hasegawa. Suguru Ni versus Tateo Iida at featherweight, 145 pounds, 66 kilos. Tetsuya Saiki versus Reiki Endo, also at 66 kilos, 145 pounds. Trent Nino Loco Gurdham, a fighter that I've been looking forward to see back in the RIZIN ring since his fight with Mr. Yabaidaro, takes on Joji Goto, 61 kilos, 135 pounds. King Reina Miura's worst nightmare, Marina Kumagai, will take on Aori Kuriyama at bantamweight, 61 kilos, 135 pounds. And kicking off the main card after the opening ceremonies, kickboxing, 3 3-minute rounds, no elbows allowed. Kensei Yamakawa versus Ryoga Hirano at 57.5 kilos, 126 pounds. But still, out of all 11 of those fights that I mentioned, for the sake of time constraints, which one do you think is probably going to be the fight that'll, excite us all, so to speak?
Oh, you want me to go? That's easy. The main event, obviously. And then, but if we can't have the main event.
I was asking, out of the 11 fights that I just mentioned that are taking place before the co-main and main event.
Okay. You guys want to go first, or want me to go first?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm looking for, of course, you know me, I'm looking forward to the superior rule set awesomeness bouts. Superior rule set being the Pride rules, soccer kicks, stomps, grounded knees, grounded up kicks, and the epic RIZIN superior rule set being they have 12-6 elbows, everything, suplex slams, all the stuff that the Pussy One Champion don't have, the Puss FL don't have, and the Pussified UFC Unified rules don't have. And that's why it makes it the superior rule set awesomeness. So I'm looking forward to those. And of those, I'm thinking, looks like maybe Trent Gurdham, like you were saying, Jay Krish. I'm excited to see him back in the ring. Also, Yuta Kubo, if you remember from the Landmark 4 event that just happened last year in November, he had the first 12-6 elbow TKO in the epic in this new modern era. The first 12-6 elbow TKO since that's the first one we've seen since John Jones and Matt Hamill, that disqualification loss. But Yuta Kubo, since it was allowed, he actually scored a 12-6 elbow TKO, so it was awesome. So I'm looking forward to that. And I don't know, look, this Oshima, she's a fantastic female fighter. Looking forward to seeing her back in there. It's Shrek. I mean, come on, the heavyweights, that's going to be fun. And so I don't know, it's tough to pick one, man. I can't pick one. If I had to pick one, I'll go with the Trent Gurdham, just like you were saying, Jay Krish. So that's what I'll say.
Okay, Andrew, what say you?
Well, first off, Chris, were you reading this from Tapology, or are we reading this from the card that?
I'm reading this from the card.
Okay, because I couldn't recognize some of the names. I was like, wait, they don't go by these. Nobody calls these fighters these names. Because I was gonna say that I think that Tapology needs to be canceled because they are so inaccurate when it comes to so much shit. What
I mean, at one point in time, they were accurate compared to Sherdog. Now they're not really. I mean, they're working worse than a piece of dried up dog shit. Let's be real.
Because one of the fighters, I think the first fight is a kickboxing fight, and you gave the guy. I think you gave the guy his real name. Yet he goes by the first name Ganbare, or let's go, or go for it in Japanese, which I thought was
I think you mean in the case of the opening fight on the kickbox. I mean, shit. In the case of the opening fight, I think you mean Kazuyuki Furukawa or Ganbare Furukawa-kun.
Yeah, because my research of him nobody has called him by whatever his first name is. Anyway, what was I gonna say? So this card is like, I think is legitimately insane when you like actually like, I mean insane in a good way. Like when you look at like the records for some of these fighters and like just like you know, like we got some fighters. We got, I think I forgot which of the MMA fights it is. There's an 0-2 fighter taking on a 19-15 fighter, which I think is like fucking it. Like that's bonkers and like
That
insanity.
would be Daiki Maruyama versus Suguru Hayasaka.
It's fucking insane. I think that's
it's under deep amateur rules, it looks like.
but no, but there's no, but it's a special, but it's still being, I think it's still being still a pro fight. I believe it's still a pro fight.
Okay.
Think they just say special rules unless they announce it as like a amateur fight. But like, there's just like we even have we have like 2 freak show fights with a heavyweight fight, obviously. And here's the thing: Oshima and Salt. Oshima is small enough to be microweight and is taking on Salt, who's basically strawweight. Yeah, she's a strawweight. Well, strawweight or atomweight champion.
Either one.
I think it's 52 kilo.
Salt is the strawweight queen of Pancrase.
So that's 2 weight classes up, or almost 2 weight classes up that Oshima is fighting, and it's just like this card is so insane. I don't know what their mindset was like. Was with the booking, like legitimately the only fight that's like legitimate like technical stuff would be the main event, and everything else is just like it's like a circus. I actually love it. I can't really honestly pick one because I think I think these fights can be all these fights can. I think the only fight that's gonna really suck though is the Kumagai Kuriyama fight. That's the only one that's gonna suck because they're both terrible. But I think all these fights can bring something really unique. I can't pick one. Either like some like crazy knockout or just kind of like it's kind of like some ugly bowling shoe ugly type fighting. That's my honest answer.
I think this card won't be just mid. It will be crazy and will be like a first trigger full of unusual things, lots of knockouts, very fast fights, or it will be like a infamous RIZIN 34 saved by a kickboxing, and it will be totally shit event. It can be both. It won't be just in between. It will be 10 or 110. It's this kind of events. We have some well-known names, especially when we will go down to the cards to the first fights of let's say main card, and we have Trent Gertham, we have Saori Oshima, we have Yuta Kubo. And then we have, as we should expect, of course, we have a bunch of local fighters like Tate Oida that I'm very interested of how he will do on a big stage. Raiki Endo that I was fully expecting just before his announcement, just to be on this card. Joji Goto, who is fighting Trent Gertham, but I'm not sure if he's local. Oh yeah, he's from Sapporo, so he's another local guy. As Andrew say, Marina Kumagai against Aoi Kuriyama, it's an interesting matchup because
it's not anything. It's gonna be awful. I guarantee that'll be the worst fight.
Okay. I just misunderstanding, but I'm interested if Kuriyama will be promoted like a teammate of Hagiwara, because she is looking exactly like his sister, because she is short haired and she's fully tattooed like Hagiwara, and of course they are from the same smoker gym. And I'm just wondering if she will walk out to the Dr. Dre music as well.
I see. Todd, since you're the host of this damn thing, what fight interests you from the 11 that I mentioned?
Well, you know, when you mentioned Yachi, like we were talking about before, you know, I remember talking to Ensign when Yachi kind of first broke into RIZIN, and he was saying, you know, he liked the way he looked, and you know that he might be somebody in this new wave of Japan fighters to watch. But you know, as the second half of his RIZIN, you know, kind of record or career, whatever you want to call it, he's been up and down. So you're saying he has an opponent that he should beat. I'm saying he better beat him, you know, because he hasn't lived up to the expectation. So I think I always look at fights as what has some significance on the card, you know, what fights have some meaning. Pride was always good about having cards full of fights that had significance. So, you know, who needs to win? Who's in a position where they probably need to win? And I would say he's one of those.
Good point. But come to think of it, when you look down the rest of his card, you see fighters that are needing to win. Obviously, you would have to think about Trent Girdham because of how serious his last fight was with Genji Umeno, how he ended up having a freak injury that cost him the fight. And he's since recovered. He's since gotten back to kickboxing and boxing and fighting down under, obviously. But still, though, he needs to win in the worst way possible. And you look at guys like Yuta Kubo. I mean, let's just face it, Takeaki Karate Kinoshita, the brother of Yusaku, he's not going to fight like Yusaku Kinoshita will. So I think Yuta Kubo
Chris,
probably
he's not the brother of Yusaku Kinoshita.
Shit.
Oh, I was pretty convinced that he is, but he's
My apologies, then. My apologies. I'm probably gonna get somebody somewhere upset at me, but I do think that Yuta Kubo needs a more serious win on his dossier to be proven as a more serious fighter, not one with his wife yelling her damn lungs out for him. So I think that he's gonna probably beat Karate Kinoshita. But as far as the fight that I'm the most looking forward to, sorry, Yabai Daro fans, it's not Genji Umeno versus Hiroki Suzuki. I'm actually looking forward to Philip Minoru Kimura versus Del Lococo, because if you look at these two fights, if you look at these two fighters, they're both coming off of losses in the RIZIN ring as far as their last times out, but Lokoku got starched by Beinoa, while the last time we seen Philip Minoru Kimura in RIZIN, he got his ass handed to him by felony Charles Bennett in 7 seconds. So, I not only think that this is an important fight for people to watch, and it's not because I'm going to be interviewing Daryl after this podcast is over, which is later tonight, obviously. I'll get the whole thing up on the Focus Fights YouTube channel later or on Focus Fights audio. But still, though, I think when I see this fight, if Philip Minoru Kimura does not win this fight, you can pretty much say I wouldn't say his career is over, but his popularity damn sure will be.
I would like to say something about Trent Girdham. The simple thing, I'm very happy about his comeback, because we all know that he knows how to fight, he knows how to entertain people, and considering, as you said, Jake, Chris, his bad injury during his last fight against Genji Umeno, it was kickbox. It was supposed to be a kickboxing fight. And right now he's back in RIZIN, and I'm really happy that he have another chance to show his skills up. As you said, definitely for Kimura, it's like ambitional stuff, because as you said before, he's back in RIZIN after his embarrassing and totally unexpected KO loss with Crazy Horse Bennett.
Charles Bennett. And
yes,
even though he did manage to win against Yusuke Yachi at Inoki Bombaye Ganryujima this past December, and yeah, he is a former K1 world champion. I do think that, you know how people are basically only defined by their losses and not by their wins, and how you're saying it's not how you define your career after those losses, it's how you improve. Basically, I mean, and it's not because I don't watch much K1 kickboxing, but then again, who doesn't? I mean, who does? I mean, I just think that Kimura hasn't really, outside of the Yusuke Yachi fight, which if you see it, send us some links so we can see it. But still, though, I think that Kimura has not improved since this. I mean, since the last time he was in competition for the RIZIN Fighting Federation, and I think that if Kimura were to lose this fight to Lukoku, his popularity, at least a small chunk of it, will be dead inside.
I
I
don't
have a
know, Jake.
question. Oh, sorry, sorry, Jay Wolf, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I just was gonna say I don't know about that because I'm pulling up his record here. He's been on a tear in K1. He's only lost once in the kickboxing.
He also knocked out Yusuke Yachi last
Exactly.
year. Was that MMA fight or was that kickboxing? I don't remember though.
It was a mixed rules fight.
Oh,
The
mixed rules, okay.
first round kickboxing,
Yeah.
second round was MMA.
But I had a question for I guess Jay Wolf. I wanted to ask you.
Yes.
Are you surprised they didn't run back Genji and Gurdam? Considering how the first fight kind of just ended because Gurdam just kind of injured himself within like less than 30 seconds.
I mean, maybe Genji wasn't available or something. I don't know. I'm sure maybe.
No, Genji's on the card though. That's not Genji's on the card though. So I'm surprised they didn't just rerun that fight.
He's on a different bout. That's why, because they got him in a kickboxing bout, and Gurdam's doing mixed martial arts. So
yeah,
maybe
Gurdam does kickboxing though. That's how it happened. Was in a kickbox. I'm just surprised. I figured that like with the way that it ended, you kind of like, let's run it back again in kickboxing. I don't know. Daniel?
Well, maybe they'll do that later on down the road. I mean, there's no reason why just because it's not on this card they can't do it later on down the road. What if both of them pick up wins right here? Then they can match them up. Since Gurdam is in mixed martial arts and then Umino is in kickboxing. If they doesn't even matter if they both lose, they can still match them up in a later RIZIN down the road. So I don't think that just because they didn't match them up on this one, immediately after that no contest or whatever, that it's like dead or whatever. No, I think that they can still do that matchup no matter what happens here on this card. So I don't have a problem with that at all. So
of course they can still do this matchup later. Right now I think Trent feels better in the MMA under the MMA rules. That for Genji it's a better solution right now because he will fight the brother of main event competitor, and moreover I think both guys, Hiroki Suzuki as well as the Muay Thai guy, so RIZIN to book that fight with an elbows. So at this point it's a better solution right now. But what I wanted to say about it's Shrek fight because Hideki Sekine is back with Miki Ueda, who had to fight, from what I remember, at Landmark against Khalil Gibran. And this fight it was off because of I don't remember, it was an injury of Kali or visa issues. And right now we will see what is Miki Ueda able to. If he is able to just to stand and bank with Shrek, or Shrek will go down, would like to take down his opponent. Miki Ueda is, from what I remember, a karate fighter.
Yeah.
Oh, you asking us? Oh yeah.
No, you're right. He's like is it Kyoshin? I don't know, whichever one it is.
Kyokushin, yeah.
Yeah.
But when you are watching Shrek's fight, you can expect anything, and he's like a true warrior. He can receive a lot, but he can, he's durable fighter. He can take a lot of damage and then turn the fight over and make a submission, for example. So you can expect everything from this fight, and I think it's the way why it's interesting, why it can be interesting.
I still think they should do Ueda versus Sudario's brother, considering that they're both
Oh.
like at the beginning of their careers. I really think they should do that.
I mean, are you sure you want to see Mikio Ueda versus Taka Kenshin?
Yes, I do. They're both like
I mean,
they're
I
both,
understand.
1-1 or 0-1, or I don't know what the fuck their records are, but they're like, it's literally their first fights. They're on their equal playing fields. They're both barely above amateur level. It's interesting. It's interesting because if they're not seasoned, what won them get a win? Because they both need to win a RIZIN.
Well, maybe they'll do that matchup in the future.
Oh, well, do it now. They both, like I said, I think Mikio's 1-1, and I think Taka Genshin, I think he's 0-2 or 1-2 now or something. Do it now before they become better. Let them do it when they're still bad at sports. That makes it more interesting.
Well, do it later on in the year then. After this fight, that'll be the next fight for Ueda. No matter if it wins or loses here, match him with Taka Genshin, and let's have some fun, like Drew's saying.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Okay, guys, I think we have talked a lot about that upcoming RIZIN 43 card. From those that doesn't know, this card will be for free in Japan. On overseas, it will be available on Fight TV, but not everyone has the same price. It depends where you are. Because I had a $12 price for this event, and you guys from America had $20. I don't know why.
Correct. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Yes, $12 for you in Poland, and $20 here for us in America on Fight.
Biden era inflation, I blame.
Biden inflation. Great one, Drew.
But either way,
JMMA is always affected. First by inflation. Sorry.
Yeah, of course. But either way, regardless of wherever you are in the world, you'll still be able to check out RIZIN 43 when it happens on June 24th or 23rd, depending on your time zone.
I'll just say this though: if they're charging us outside Japan, that commentary better be fucking good. Better be spick and span. Now, I didn't hear the last commentary.
I want the Japanese commentary. I
point.
don't want English commentary.
Listen, if we're, because I was in the press room for RIZIN 42, and I just saw everybody just like going like crazy about the how awful the English commentary was. So, if they're charging us, now there's no excuse for it to be bad. There really is no excuse. Or just have the Japanese commentary or have no commentary.
Exactly, and it's not RIZIN's fault about the comments. It's Fight
yes, it is.
TV.
Oh no, it's
Fight
their
TV
fault.
doing the remote. And also, they need to send it in to Damian Brown and Joe Ferraro that every time something awesome happens, don't yell as loud as they can into the microphone and go, oh, as loud as they can. Like that blows out our speakers when they do that on a Zoom call. If they were ringside doing that, it'd be fine. Just like in the UFC when Joe Rogan and them do that, it's fine. But when they're on the Zoom call remote commentary, they can't be sitting there yelling at the top of their lungs every time something awesome happens because it blows out our speakers. That is the main problem with the remote commentary, I think. So,
well, it's not that's not the only one. They're both in different time zones. So you have one guy who's like on a 5-second delay. I think it's always Ferraro who's on the like 5 or 10 second delay, and Damian Brown who's like reacting in real time because he's closer in a time zone, I believe. So that's, and also they're both whatever mics they have, they're both garbage. Sorry to say. And listen, that's what happens when you have a long show, Jay Wolf. There's bound to be more issues. So if the shows are shorter, there'd be less likely to be issues. So another reason why shorter is better if you're doing
No way.
if you have to do remote
15 fights
commentary.
is a sweet spot. 15 fights is a sweet spot. So, but hey, no, you know what the solution is really is to bring back ringside commentary. That's what the solution is. Okay, that's it.
That's the only solution. I don't know what other there's legitimately no other solution.
Exactly. Yeah, no,
Well,
that's
I guess
that's
you have
what
no
it is.
commentary because you have no commentary, the Japanese commentary. That I mean, I guess those are two other solutions. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the next event because we was talking about the June event. Right now we'll move on to the July's event. July 30, from what I remember, it's a Super RIZIN 2. As much as I know, there will be a July show. No info about any August show, and then I think I know something about there will be something probably in Saitama in September, and we don't know anything about the rest of the calendar, but hopefully they will announce something. I hope so that it will take place this month during RIZIN 43. And finally, July, we have another RIZIN against Bellator collaboration. It will be the third time officially. And what would you like to say about this card? Because we have almost whole Bellator part complete, but Jay Wolf said or wrote that there will be 6 fights of Bellator on a Bellator part, and there will be from 9 to 12 fights after the Bellator part. It will be a typical RIZIN, I think.
Well, I think I can vouch for Jay Wolf on this because, first of all, when it comes down to this particular fight card, Bellator versus RIZIN 2 and Super RIZIN 2, it's going to be an exciting card. It just sucks because, I mean, I'm not saying in quality terms it sucks. It sucks timeline-wise because over here in the United States, around the same time that event will start on July the 29th, you will not only have to deal with this card, but you'll also have to deal with a UFC show and a big-time professional boxing pay-per-view ran by Showtime and Premier Boxing Champions in the form of Errol Spence Jr. versus Terrence Bud Crawford. So for us fight fans, we're going to probably have to really keep one eye on this and one eye on whatever else is going on. But still, though, there's going to be 6 fights, 5 currently announced so far by Bellator on the Bellator MMA portion inside the cage, the circular cage, under the unified rules. It's Andre Spartan Korshkov versus Lorenz de Monsoon Larkin at welterweight. The Italian gangster Danny Savatello versus Tiger Magomedov at bantamweight. Kana Watanabe returning to JMMA competition for the first time in 4 years versus Veta Arteaga. That's going to be at women's flyweight. The men's flyweight title match, well, Bellator will decipher its first men's flyweight world champion when Kyoji Horiguchi takes on Makoto Shinryu Takahashi. And yes, I'm using the man's full name because, well, what's the point? We can't really call him Shinryu because Shinryu is a nickname. But yeah, the main event and the co-main event will be 5 5-minute rounds. And the main event will be the final Bellator lightweight $1 million Grand Prix quarterfinal, pitting the mercenary AJ McKee returning to Japan for the first time since the Bellator 40 event when he beat up, who did he beat up again? At RIZIN 40, who did he defeat?
Who, AJ McKee? Satoshi Sosa.
Oh, right. Roberto Satoshi Sosa.
A lot of people thought Sosa won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So,
still,
had the scorecards.
AJ McKee, the mercenary, will be coming back to Japan for the first time since beating up Roberto Satoshi de Sosa, even though many people say that it was a De Sosa win, as he will take on Patricky Pitbull Fiore, the former Bellator lightweight champion, who he will be coming back to Japan for the first time since losing to eventual star Tofik Musayev. That's the RIZIN portion. The Super RIZIN portion, only 2 fights up the schedule, 9 to 12, so to speak, have been announced. Juan Archuleta versus Kai Asakura for the Bellator. No, Juan Archuleta versus Kai Asakura for the RIZIN bantamweight title. And if I'm not mistaken, and I'm trying to look at this damn fight card now.
Mikura against Vugar.
No, yeah, Mikuru Asakura versus Vugar Karamov.
Oh no, you're right. Kai's in the main event.
Yeah.
And then we have scheduled Tofik Musayev's comeback to RIZIN ring. He has not opponent scheduled yet. Hopefully they will announce maybe this week, maybe another week, some more details about it. And
I mean, come to think of it, considering that it's going to be Musayev's first fight inside the RIZIN ring in over 2 years since he lost to Roberto Satoshi de Sousa at the Tokyo Dome. I mean, I don't know who you would put in the ring, literally the ring, against, Tofik, because even though that one loss, he's defined by that one loss against De Sousa, he's still a former RIZIN lightweight Grand Prix champion, and he's still a destroyer in that ring.
Oh, I got a couple names for you we can put in there. Luis Killer Gustavo, also Takeda, also from the New Year's Eve collaboration mega event. Remember he fought Rabadanov? And then you could go with another hot lightweight in the RIZIN, Juri Ohara. If you want to do the rematch with Satoshi-san, you can do that as well. I mean, there's a lot of options for Tofik. I'm really excited to see him back there. I mean, this is going to be so much fun. I just cannot wait for this. And we were on Tape to the Junk show. When we do previews and stuff, we did a show on this presser. We call it the super presser because it was for Super RIZIN too. But I mean, it's really exciting. I can't wait to see. I think, J. Chris, what you were saying about them announcing more fights, I think they might do that this week because there's a Bellator 297 happening this Friday, and it's a huge card for them. Probably one of their best cards they've ever done, actually. And that's former RIZIN warrior Vadim Nemkov is taking on Yoel Romero, UFC superstar Yoel Romero, and so it's gonna.
And that'll be for the Bellator light heavyweight title. Yeah.
And then of course the co-main is Sergio Pettis versus Patricio Pitbull, pound Pitbull, going for triple champ status. I mean, those are two of the best, if not the two top pound fighters in Bellator. So that's a huge card for them. And I'm really hoping. Actually, you know what? I don't have to hope. I know that they are going to. I can use the force and tell you guys that they are going to talk about this Super RIZIN 2. They might even give us who that 5th or 6th fight is going to be for the Bellator portion. And we might even get to hear who some of the other fighters that they're going to send over for the Super RIZIN portion afterwards. Because it's not just going to be Tofik and Archuleta. There's going to be others. I mean, this is going to be a lot of fun. And I was telling Teep, I consider this is a Pride Bushido level event. Because, the Almighty Pride FC, what made them awesome was that we had elite fighters under the superior rule set, right? And that's exactly what we have going on right here with Super RIZIN 2. We're having the Bellator fighters. Juan Archuleta is a top 3 ranked Bellator fighter. He the only man to beat Patchy Mix, who is the current Bellator champion, right? Current interim Bellator bantamweight champion. The only man to beat him was Juan Archuleta, and he's number 3 in Bellator's rankings. He's taking on Kai Asakura for the Epic RIZIN championship. I mean, it's just gonna be so much fun, bro. And bros, I can't wait. This is really, what they're calling it? They're calling it the Midsummer Martial Arts Festival, and I call it the Summer Blockbuster Collaboration Mega Event because it's huge. It's like a New Year's Eve collaboration mega event, but in the summertime. So
I mean, come to think of it, dude, since you're more into Blockbuster, since you're in California, you could have just called it the Summer Blockbuster and just left it at that.
Okay, yeah, let's do it. The Summer Blockbuster Collaboration Mega Event. Oh, you don't want to add the collaboration mega part?
J-Wolf, you believe do you honestly believe that Bellator is going to have any mention of this Friday? And
Yes.
even this is a promotion that doesn't promote their own shit.
Well, trust me,
They didn't promote their CBS show at all.
No, that was weird. You know what? I think that was because I think they were scared because there was a lot of Russians on that Bellator 290. That was LA.
Come on! Come on!
I'm searching
Daniel,
for.
you're laughing. You
hey,
think it's bullshit. Daniel's trying not to laugh. You think that he's like, what the fuck you smoking,
I was trying to
J-Wolf?
figure out why.
Smoking, J-Wolf?
No,
Because
if you remember correctly, I was the one trying to ask them. I was like, why the hell they did a CBS Saturday Night Sports lineup, right?
Mhm.
They mentioned every single sport that was happening on CBS, but they left off Bellator 290. So we're trying to figure out why they would do that. It didn't make sense, and we're trying to.
Because this company is dumb. This company is run by dumb people with a parent company that doesn't give a shit about it. It's being sold. Mr. Todd Atkins, of course, the one who broke it.
They're going to get investors. They're going to get investors. Not being sold. It's going to get
if
investors.
It didn't get before, they still give a shit now, because if it's being sold, it's being sold, and they don't owe anything to anybody except to just sign that thing to whoever is going to buy it.
Let's see what Todd has to say on this. He's the one that broke.
Here's the thing.
That broke the internet.
They got rid of the guy who built Bellator. Bellator was his life. They bring in Scott Coker, who could care less about Bellator. He had no ties to it. He has no ownership of Bellator whatsoever. He had nothing to do with building Bellator. And like Andrew says, he runs it like he could care less. I loved Bellator and Bjorn Rebney. I watched it every week. I love the tournament format. It was very easy to follow. You didn't have to, let's make some fights. I loved it because it's a tournament. You knew, you could kind of see it developing, who might win, who face each other next. It's like they took a great thing and just ruined it.
The best thing to come out of Scott Coker's Bellator is Kimbo Slice versus Dada 5000. That is the best thing.
Oh yeah, for a hater, I think the best thing is this collaboration. The collaboration with Epic RIZIN is the best thing going in mixed martial arts right now, or at least one of them.
Jay,
there's some interesting fights there. I think
that.
we got some fights we could talk about here.
Jay,
because
I agree with you on the fact that the Bellator RIZIN collaboration has been the best thing going out of Scott Coker's Bellator because of Coker's love for JMMA. But Andrew, what the fuck are you smoking? Seriously, do you really think that that the best thing out of Bellator over the last 6 or 7 years that Scott Coker's been running?
I meant memorable because that was the highest rated show that was ever on. So the most memorable. So I meant
haterade, Jay Krish. He's sipping on the haterade.
But if you look at the stars of Bellator, almost all of them are guys that Bjorn Rebney brought there. Pitbull, Orishkov, who's fighting on this card. He brought a lot of those Russian fighters into Bellator way before the UFC did.
Chandler,
guys like
Alvarez.
Kazbalayev. He had Storm Shlemenko, Shamalayev.
Yeah, come to think of it,
Minikov, their heavyweight champion. Bjorn was way ahead of his time.
He has a keeper right now in AJ McKee, who's loyal to the cause.
No, don't get me wrong. They brought in some good fighters, but the majority of the stars of Bellator right now were guys that Bjorn Rebney brought in.
But that was because of the tournament structure. The tournament format built those guys. Yeah.
He also brought in Venom Page right before they fired him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Bellator got rid of Michael Venom Page?
No, they didn't. No.
Bjorn brought Venom Page in fairly close to him being fired.
Oh.
Because he was already talking up Venom Page. We got this guy. Wait till you see him fight. Next thing you know, they can Bjorn Rebney,
I see. I remember that.
With Scott Coker, is that well, I don't even know if it's Coker itself, but right, but Bellator it's just a line item for CBS Paramount. It's just a thing to like, oh, we have sports, we have this thing here. This is a whole new era. We're talking about before, modern era, longer, that these people think longer is better. Now the modern era is also content is king. UFC is doing that right now as well, by producing a show almost every week. And yeah, that's what CBS Paramount sees as well, at least one time, Belts was just a piece of content just to put on the Showtime thing.
Well, I mean, it complements Showtime boxing perfectly. Also on Paramount Plus, their app, they have Combate Global as well, and it goes very nicely.
Thank you. Actually, I forgot about that. Well, first of all, let's see if that fight even happens, because Spence Crawford got such big egos. Who the fuck knows if this fight will even happen in July? So,
dude, it's gonna happen. At least I hope it will happen, because if not, it's gonna be a big fucking.
You can hope when they are in the ring and the bell rings and then they punch each other, then I'll believe it. But I want I want you to watch, see the amount of coverage, or not coverage, sorry, how Showtime and its affiliates will, including Luke Thomas, your favorite, will promote the Showtime boxing show, Spence Crawford versus the Bellator RIZIN thing. I want you to watch that, and that's how much Showtime CBS ever cared about Bellator at all. And
come to think of it, you know what, Andrew? You're right about that, because just wait until fight week for Spence Crawford / Super RIZIN comes up and see where their priorities lie. You're gonna probably see.
No, I was going to say, because you know how they always do those hour-long documentaries on the fighters for like boxing.
All access.
Yes, all access. Where's the Bellator? That'd be a great thing for Bellator RIZIN, an all access Bellator RIZIN thing, right?
Oh, that'd be awesome. Send it in to Coker. Drew, send it in. That's money in the bank.
That's what I'm saying. That Coker don't give a fuck. I'm just saying that he don't give a fuck. He's just. I don't know. I don't know what he's doing.
Look. I mean, look. Coker has done. He still had he kept the Grand Prix. Okay, it's not the tournament format, but he still kept tournaments in the form of the Grand Prix. I know that it sucks because they go over a year long. Nobody, nobody dislikes that more than me, because me, I love the one night tournaments. That's one of my things. So, but still, Scotty Cokes still does the Grand Prix, and it is because of him, and because of him only, him and Sakakibara-san is why that Showtime and Bellator are allowing the collaboration to even happen. So, I mean, Todd, go ahead. What do you want to say, Todd?
Coker went back to the Grand Prix because that's what worked in Bellator, and the crap he was putting out wasn't, Rebney, they had the toughest tournament in sports. He had to win 3 fights in 3 months,
Yeah.
They weren't running the Grand Prix until they realized, holy crap, no one's watching our copy of the UFC. That's when you have a matchmaking event. And I want to talk about some of these fights, by the way, because there are a couple that I think are important. But if you turn your show into a matchmaking event, the UFC is doing it better than you, and they're doing it more than you. They're doing it every week. If you can't do it every week and do it really well, you got no chance. So you shifted to a format. Bellator was coming up when Bjorn Rebney was running it. It was an alternative to the UFC. If you like this 3 fights in 3 months tournament thing, happens every week. I think it was on Thursday or Friday.
Yes.
I think it was Thursday. But,
yes,
it was anybody could follow it. It's going to be on Thursday at this time on this channel. Very easy to follow, and 3 fights in 3 months. So we got this tournament format. You got a certain amount of guys. I loved it. And, Bjorn Rebney, passion is really important. We were talking about this on my show before. I don't know if you guys watch it. Abu Dhabi, for example. You had Sheikh Tanoon, who had a great passion for jiu-jitsu. That's why ADCC is still around today. He's still financing it, even though he hasn't been to one since like 2001. But there was another show Kuwait Warriors War. This was back in, God, it was in the late 1990s. There was another guy in the Middle East who wanted to have a show, but he didn't have the passion, right? But at that time, Kuwait Warriors War had one of the best fight cards you could possibly imagine. You know, a who's who of good fighters at that time. And that was the only one they ever did. And that's what I'm talking about. When you have a passion for something, Scott Coker doesn't have a passion for Bellator. He's just collecting a check, in my opinion. And
You
he
know
runs
what?
it. He runs it that way. Like Andrew was saying, they don't promote these shows.
You know
Yeah.
what? Come to think of it, have you ever heard of an MMA show out in Guatemala called Shindo Warriors? I think it was. I mean, I think that's pretty much the same. I think that was pretty much the same way because they had all these top-notch prospects, you know, that made their name, you know, on the independent, well, not really on the independent circuit, but on the major US circuit. They had all the pyro and ballyhoo behind it. They had Jimmy Lennon Jr. as the ring announcer for it. I think I got the playlist of that on the Focus Fights YouTube channel, but they only done one event and they ended up, you know, shitting the bed and calling it in because they basically did not have enough structure to go forward with a second event or with another event. Same thing also went for Global Warrior Challenge, which featured Bobby Lashley all the way back in like 2010. And that event happened in Kansas City. And they wanted to do an event in Hawaii with USA versus Brazil, but that event died out because they didn't have enough money. I'm not saying, and I know, Todd, where you're coming from, I'm not saying that Scott Coker doesn't have enough money to run this over. I mean, if he didn't, he wouldn't have been around for the last 7 years to help build Bellator. I'm just saying, if Scott Coker would have shown no interest in Bellator, he would have let this thing die a long time ago. And you know
Not
what?
if you're getting a check. Not if it's how you
Well,
make your living.
True.
What I'm
But-
saying is
Mhm.
they made Viacom made a decision. Let's fire the guy that this is his life. Let's fire him and let's bring somebody in who could care less about this promotion and see how it goes.
Well, you know what they
it's
were
the
thinking,
wrong
Todd?
thing to do.
Todd, you know what they were thinking? They're thinking Scotty Coates is the guy that built Strikeforce
Yeah.
into the UFC rival, right?
Strikeforce
And-
was his baby, though. That's what I'm saying. Are you
Mhm.
going to fire Scott Coker in and bring me in to run Strikeforce? No, that's his promotion. That's his that's his San Jose based, MMA promotion that became something.
Well,
You're
the
not going to
Reddit
bring
should
somebody
never
else in to run it. Be idiotic.
Oh,
But
Daniel,
you
what-
know, there's a good point that Jay Wolf is talking about Strikeforce because you could see some things that when Scott Coker took over the Bellator, he implemented some things that Strikeforce was known for. The Grand Prix format was exactly it's exactly the same thing from Strikeforce because it was all year long or even 1.5 year long too, like in Bellator right now. Even the details, the model and colors of the gloves, the style of logo, it's all of that things are taken from the old Strikeforce. Even the color of canvas is brighter, like in a Strikeforce. I think this is from my perspective, Coker. For Scott Coker, the new Bellator is like a reincarnation of Strikeforce from my perspective.
I can understand that. But
I want to talk about some of these
yeah,
fights, though,
Mhm.
because we should get to that.
yeah,
there are
we
some
can
interesting
talk
fights.
about all these fights, but
Yeah.
one thing I can say, and I think Jay Wolf was trying to get to this earlier, is when it comes to fight week, which is the week of July 24th to the 30th, if I'm not mistaken. Actually July 23rd to the 29th. Watch how many people latch on to the Crawford Spence fight in Las Vegas, and watch how many people latch on to this Bellator MMA versus RIZIN, Super RIZIN 2 card, and see how many people are showing interest in this event versus what's going on with both the UFC and big time boxing over here in the States.
Does
Oh yeah,
anyone
Chris, I can't wait.
does
Oh, go ahead.
anyone latch on to Bellator cards in general? I don't know who that person is.
What are you talking about? I do it every single time.
Zero.
Okay, Jay.
Besides
it's
J Wolf,
Teep in
besides J
the
Wolf,
Jump.
the answer is
Teep in
zero.
the Jump.
The answer is zero.
No, it's
Oh, sorry,
Teep in the
that's
Jump.
true.
Teep in the Jump is the
Shatif J
Bellator
Wolf.
dude.
And again, the Dutch guy. What's his name? Santiago.
Yes, from the
That's
Bellator
three.
Zone. Bellator Zone Bros.
So
Yeah.
that's 3 people.
Well, hey, you know, speaking of what Jay Chris was saying, we don't have to wait that long till July. We can do it for this the RIZIN 43 card. We can do it this, in the Epic RIZIN Discord. Actually, it's a lot of fun in there. One of the fans that's in there that we talked to, a Just Bleed fan, we have a little competition going now where we're gonna see during fight week. Because I you know me, I love to call it the UFC media. I don't call it MMA media because they're not. They're a bunch of UFC lapdogs worried about their press passes. So, but anyways, it's going to be fun to see. It's just like Jay Chris was saying, for fight week, they're not going to give us any kind of any coverage, or they're do like the bare minimum with like weigh-in articles or whatever. But like Drew was saying, they should be doing stuff like the behind the scenes stuff and what was that boxing show called that was on Showtime, that Jay Chris was saying for the boxers that they do All Access or whatever, do something like that, just anything. But it depends on if the UFC media is actually going to cover them, and we'll see. You already know they're going to give priority to the Spence Crawford and the UFC that weekend, but we don't have to worry about that because that'll only go into a couple fights. The RIZIN, Bellator and RIZIN, that's going to be later on. So you'll get to see the main fights of that, and then you'll get to see the entire Bellator, entire RIZIN card. So
okay, I have a question for you. Is UFC 291 this is the same night or just or night before?
For which one? The Bellator versus RIZIN July 30th one? Yeah, it's the same
yes.
night as Spence Crawford. It's going to be the main event will be ending. No, the main event of the UFC will be happening when the Bellator portion of Super RIZIN 2 is starting, like for their first or 2 fights, and same with Spence Crawford. Spence Crawford will be happening at the same time as UFC, and those ones will be ending right as in the middle of the Bellator, the Super RIZIN Bellator portion of the card. So, because the main portion of that one starts at 8 p.m. or excuse me, 11 p.m. Eastern time, which is 8 p.m. Pacific time. That's when the Bellator portion of Super RIZIN 2 starts. Okay, and the UFC pay-per-view starts at 7 p.m. or 10 p.m. Eastern. And Spence Crawford, we know that's going to start around about the same time, right? So all those main events, exactly what time the UFC main events usually happen, right around 12 midnight Eastern time. Same thing with the Spence Crawford. That's only going to be an hour into the Bellator Super RIZIN show. So we're not going to miss that much. Not miss, but you're not going to have to overlap, have multiple screens for that long. So it's not going to be that. It's not going to be like you guys are thinking, where it's going to be like, dude, you don't have which screen to focus on for the entire night. It's not going to be that. It's going to be just for the beginning, and then you'll be watching the main event of the boxing UFC, and then you'll switch it over to the Bellator RIZIN, and then the Epic Super RIZIN afterwards. So it's going to be a really fun night of combat sports. I just can't wait.
Okay, you are talking about the things from your American perspective. From my perspective, I can tell you that nobody will give a shit about that Bellator card because
Daniel, why do you have to do me so bad like that?
I was going to say, I actually see a couple of matches here that I think have meaning. Like I always talk about what fights have meaning. Bellator's trying to push Danny Sabatella, for example. He lost one fight, then he won his last fight. Magomed, that's going to be a tough fight for him. He's going to have a hard time winning that. So that's a big fight for him. you know.
I would like to finish. What do I mean? Because from my perspective, from Polish perspective, there's Jan Błachowicz against Alex Pereira in the co-main event. So everyone will tune the UFC on. So that's why. And usually the people are because where it is, it's in Utah. So I'm not sure about the time zone differences. Because usually when it's on East Coast, the UFC events, or in America, not or the combat sports events with boxing on East Coast, usually the main cards are starting at 2 a.m. When it's in Nevada or West Coast, you know what I'm saying. It happens. The main card starts at 4 a.m. So it's very difficult hour for Europeans to follow. So usually when it's major UFC card starting at 4 a.m. and then it's RIZIN, almost nobody stays. That's how the things look like from the European perspective. Speaking about the card, not the UFC, of course, but the Super RIZIN, we know almost everything from Bellator's side, because if it's the 5 fights on the Bellator's part, we have the card complete, and then we have Kaya Sakura against Juan Archuleta, so the Bellator fire, and then we have the only one purely RIZIN matched up fight, Mikuro against Vuga. And what I would like to say about the card, first and foremost, I'm kind of disappointed that Shinryu will fight for the Bellator belt with Kyoji from the RIZIN perspective, of course. On the paper, it's great news for Bellator and for the fans as well, because why? We will have a 5-rounder. So I think the 3-rounder for this kind of fight, it's too short. What I would like to say more, I'm really looking forward for the next announcements, because from the RIZIN side, we know that there's an event with Bellator, and that's almost all, because we know, as I said, there are only 3 or 4 RIZIN fighters. It depends how we count the Shinryu. What I wanted to say more, I don't know how it will be broadcasted, because it's ABEMA. It's not on ABEMA, so I can't even make a VPN connection and then buy a pay-per-view. I'm talking about whole card, and it will be on Unext. Unext, it's a more difficult thing for a foreigner, because it demands the subscription, and it's, from what I heard, from what I know, it requires to have a 1-year contract with them. For you, if you would like to subscribe Unext. And from what I know more, it's more VPN proof than ABEMA.
What about the
Unext? Remember, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Remember, Unext was that thing that showed the first Landmark show, and remember, no one could access it. That was like it became a almost mythic show, and I didn't believe it. Remember they released it on YouTube like 2 years later or something like that.
Before the next, I think it was before Landmark 3 or Landmark 4, they finally released it, and we got to see and also they did they do the same thing for the Bellator Japan, the first one? Remember the post limbs where we couldn't see those for the longest time? I think
This is the Los Media, actually.
Oh, okay.
The post limbs from Bellator Japan. I've been there. I was on the venue, so I saw that fight. But I would like to see it again. This is the one thing. The second time, this is the hidden gem, in my opinion. The Ren's debut in RIZIN against Ashida. under kickboxing rule set. Lots of interesting things happened, but from some because of some reason we can't see this still after, I don't know, 4 years.
Well, we'll see. They might be for this upcoming the July card, the Super RIZIN 2 card with Bellator on it again. Maybe they'll give us access to those post limbs, like similar to like how Landmark did and UNEXT did when they gave us access to the one that we didn't get to see the first Landmark event, and they put that as like an intro, like free content for, you know, trying to hype up the Landmark 4 event or Landmark 3 event, whichever one it was. Maybe they'll do the same thing, since this is like technically it's not, you know, officially named Bellator Japan 2, but technically it is Bellator Japan 2, right?
You know what?
maybe
From the
maybe
think of
they'll
it,
release the
Danny,
postman.
I hear what you're saying, but in a way, I really hope that we can be able to see the RIZIN half of this Bellator versus RIZIN 2 card, especially considering the fact that you got a Bellator fighter vying for the RIZIN belt. You got a Bellator fighter looking to become a RIZIN champion.
We are definitely going to get to see that. It's going to be on Fight TV for us. The Bellator portion's on Showtime. And I don't know how, Daniel, how do you guys in Poland watch the regular Bellator shows? Do you guys have access to Showtime there or no?
We don't have any access to the main cards. We have an access to the undercards of Bellator, which is on YouTube. But in theory, we should have an access to the main cards as well. But we don't have it's geo-blocked, but we should, because we don't have an official broadcaster of Bellator since this year.
See, that's something that needs to be remedied. That's something that Scotty Koch should remedy, because look, Daniel Zubicki is just one of the Polish fan base that is, I mean, that's one of the biggest mixed martial arts fan bases in Europe.
Jay, Scotty Koch doesn't care.
Oh, yes, he does. Scotty Koch cares. You guys are gonna see. You'll see. I mean, look at what he's already done. The New Year's Eve collaboration mega event was one of the best show. I mean, it was an event of the year candidate easily. And now this lightweight Scotty Koch is listening to the fans. These are all things that we asked for. Just like when he kept the Grand Prix. Remember? That's because of fan backlash. We were saying, hey, don't get rid of the tournament format. I'm sure Todd was one of those people saying, hey, what are you doing? You can't get rid of the tournament format for Bellator. This is freaking awesome. So Scotty Koch, you know, being from Strikeforce, he's like, no, okay, we're going to keep the Grand Prix. And he told the Bellator brass people at Showtime or whatever, saying, hey, no, we got to do the Grand Prix. We got to keep at least the Grand Prix if we're not going to do the tournament format. And then now, look at what Scotty Koch is doing for us now. He's the only one with the balls to collaborate and do cross-promotion fights. Who else is doing that? You think those people, Puss FL is doing that? I don't think so. And we already know that UFC ain't doing that with Dingleberry Dana having nightmares of getting his ass handed to him in Almighty Pride FC. So who else is doing it? Nobody else is doing it. Only Scotty Koch and Bellator is doing these awesome collaboration bouts for us. I mean,
well, remember the whole RIZIN's initial concept was basically being a collaboration promotion. Remember all the flags. So I don't, you know, I don't think it's Scotty Koch is brave for doing it. I'm just, you know, because RIZIN's cool bits, you know. Also because Bellator Paramount don't care. Not Bellator Paramount, CBS Paramount don't give a shit. And neither is Bellator. Bellator will collaborate with me to run a show in my backyard. Okay, that's the state of Bellator at this point.
Well, we'll see. Look, remember, they got a lot of heat on New Year's Eve for New Year's Eve collaboration mega event because they did not offer it live. And remember, everybody was just ripping them a new one, saying, "Hey, you got this tape delay stuff. This is 2023. No more tape delay." And what do? They listened to us. This Super RIZIN card is going to be live on Showtime now. So they, you know, I know you guys say they don't care.
Let's say what I believe in when I see it, because they did actually promote that show last year as live. They did do that, but they did promote it as live.
I'm telling you that they care. They listen to us fans, and they're gonna do it live this time. Just you know, will be the proof for you guys. I already know what it is when they bring back the ringside commentary. we're going to be like, okay, they finally listened to us about the ringside commentary. And with Bellator, I mean, I don't know, guys, it's just so much freaking fun.
If Bellator's commentary is not ringside, I guarantee it'll be 100 times better than the commentary from RIZIN, remote. So I guarantee there'll be no issues with that. So I know, yeah. Well,
okay. Speaking about the co-promotion, we can be critical about the Bellator moves. How the last co-promotions looked like, that the fights weren't too exciting, especially from the Bellator side. But I have to say that this is the fair point, that nobody does it either. But the Bellator is the only promotion that can and wants to co-promote with some other company. I know I'm not convinced that it has a typical economic background. It's more like that Coker knows Sakakibara for a long time. He likes JMMA, and this is this kind of things, but this is the fair point. This is the only time when they can co-promote with anyone, and that's the only point that we can even praise Bellator for this, and I'm fully supporting J-Wolf in this kind of things.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate that.
I want to ask a question, because we're a Japanese MMA show here. So let's talk about, you talk about how Bellator wanted to co-promote with RIZIN, but why does RIZIN want to co-promote with them? Is what I'm wondering. Because let's talk about this. Back in the Pride days, they would have said, yeah, you can bring your fighters into Pride if you want, but we're not going to do Bellator versus Pride. This is Pride FC, man. You can bring them here if you want. Just like Chuck Liddell came to Pride. They didn't call it UFC versus Pride event. No, you can come to our event. We're the ones that are paying out here. You want to come to Pride and fight? Fine. I don't think they would have done that back then. So there might be some need on RIZIN's side to do some co-promoting too, don't you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Look, Bellator brings the elite fighters. That is what makes it so cool. We are getting elite. Look, like it or not, I know there's a lot of haters out there. Bellator is the number 2 promotion. They're number 2 promotion because their roster is the strongest of any promotion besides the UFC. That is as undeniable fact. They have the best fighters, but that are not in the UFC. Period. Nobody, the Puss FL can't keep one championship. Can't see them. Nobody else can see Bellator's roster besides UFC. And Todd, what you're saying about back in the day in Almighty Pride FC era, remember for the 2000 Grand Prix, there was a lot of UFC guys crossing over. That's what got the attention of the international is guys like Mark Coleman, Hoist Gracie was on there. I mean, that is what put Pride on the map initially, right? Was technically a cross promotion event with that 2000 Grand Prix.
Yeah, but those guys weren't under contract with the UFC. The one that was a big, the big steal that they did do though was Bustamante. Bustamante was champion in the UFC. He was free agent, and they got him. But those other guys, they weren't under contract.
Todd, you know why that is? Because Pride FC was the peak of mixed martial arts. It was peak. It was bigger than the UFC has ever been. It was just it was the peak mixed martial. That's why they were like right now. The Epic RIZIN is still growing. It still has a limited roster to the lighter weight divisions. They have some heavier guys, but it's not even close to how the Almighty Pride FC was. Not yet. But Bellator collaborating with them, that brings these elite fighters. Like Juan Archuleta, like I was saying earlier, he's number 3 in Bellator right now. The only man to beat Patchy Mix, interim champion, former champion. I mean, that is what made Pride cool, was elite fighters on a superior rule set. And that's what this collaboration with Bellator, with the RIZIN today, is doing. It's bringing elite fighters under the superior rule set. And this is, I'm telling you, it is so much freaking fun. That is why I keep calling it the new golden era, because it is. This right now is a new golden era, and it's just so much fun. And Bellator gets way too much hate. Same as Scotty Cokes. It's got to be because they're building themselves into a legit rival to the UFC. That's what I think it is.
Scott needs to have you at his events, and we need to. How can we make this happen?
But
you deserve a press pass at Bellator without question.
But you know, I was at Bellator 290, the one in LA, Fedor Emelianenko, the greatest fighter of all time's retirement ceremony. I was there ringside or cage side, and it was a lot of fun. And just, I mean, I would love to do the press stuff, but then I don't want to be working while I'm there at the event. I love to be there having a good time, drinking beers and, and talking with fans. And so I don't want to be sitting there, having to type up stuff, it's just, and, I guess from what
God
Daniel
should
was
have you
telling me,
cage
but-
side at every event. I've never seen someone more passionate for Bellator and Scott Coker in my life.
Oh, thanks, bro.
I love
Appreciate
your
that.
passion.
Okay.
But Scott Coker should have you cage side every event until they sell to the PFL.
Oh, thanks,
Answer-
bro.
Okay. Answering your question, Todd, I think back in 2000, let's say 2005, market was totally different than today. Neither RIZIN or Bellator are a world leader like Pride FC used to be, and Pride FC had full, rights to just dictate the conditions. And that's why they could co-promote or not to make a special co-promotion show with anyone. Right now, I think there's many reasons why it takes place, because because first and foremost, I think that two sides respects each other, that their CEOs are respecting each other. The second thing is that for Bellator, Japan is a brand new market that they can went in, and as we know or we don't know, Bellator has lots of, let's say, street credit in Japan, and from the Japanese perspective, Bellator is almost like a UFC level, or it even has a UFC level for Japanese fan. For RIZIN, it's an occasion to bring more international audience, international attention. It can be debatable if it's it's successful or not, but they are at least trying. The one thing that I don't like about that relationship is that Bellator is sometimes snitching the fighters from RIZIN, like they did with Tofik. Of course, there was
you mean poaching. Daniel, you mean poaching, where they're taking some of the best fighters from the RIZIN roster and bringing them
okay.
Okay.
Thanks. I needed a proper word. But as I said before, there are many reasons, and the market in zeros was totally different than it's nowadays.
Could it be that them co-promoting with Bellator also kind of throws a roadblock into one trying to run shows in Japan as well?
Yeah, because
they aren't co-promoting with ONE FC. ONE FC wants to run shows in Japan, but they want nothing to do with them.
Yeah, because remember, they originally had a banner for one, like Drew was talking about, the original shows. They had banners of all these different promotions, and one was one of them. Remember, and then I guess Shatri was just trying to, do his thing where he's trying to be.
It was on the table that one RIZIN partnership.
They had one fighters. I don't remember who, but they definitely did have one fighter. My God.
Aoki was.
Wasn't Andy Sauer? Was he with one at the time?
No. Andy Sauers jumped the ships after his second MMA fight because he did not want to do MMA. And then he took an offer from one for being just a kickboxer, not being forced to just making.
I'm too tired to do the research. Polish Hammer. You can find out who was with one at the time, and then was fighting.
Aoki was definitely.
Oh, really? Oh yeah.
Against Sakuraba.
Oh yeah. So I guess that counts. I thought there'd be more. Okay. I think
there was a women's bout that had some one fighters. I have to look it up
that's
too.
what I'm thinking. I thought there was I feel like there was a women's bout that might have had. Oh God. Yeah, you guys can do research. I'm too
Yeah, we'll
lazy to
have
do
to
that.
research it later, but
Yeah.
there was
I-
definitely there was a one banner there. And to answer Todd's question of why one can't get a foothold in Japan is because they're not on Epic Rizin's level. They have a pussified rule set. All one allows is grounded knees. They don't allow suplexes. They don't allow stomps. They don't allow soccer kicks. Okay, there's a pussified rule set, and despite it's like the Dream rule set. That's why Dream didn't take off in Japan, because you can't go, because Dream, remember, only allowed grounded knees. You can't go for the Japanese audience. They're just not going to accept that. That you can't go from the almighty Pride FC, the peak of mixed martial arts, allowing the full, soccer kicks, stomps, all the good stuff. You can't go from that to a pussified version of it. It's just not going to work. The Japanese fans are just not going to accept it. Okay, and that's why I was saying one needs to just go to drop the mixed martial arts and go become one kick, and then maybe then they'll be able to get a foothold in Japan. But
They
I
have
just
some
don't see
pretty
how-
good fighters, man. I mean, come on, they do have
I
some
think
pretty damn
well,
good fighters in one.
my theory behind well, there should be one kick and one grappling. I'll be fine with that. They have the grappling.
Okay. Yes,
Um,
do that. Let Epic Rising, the superior promotion, have all the mixed martial arts fighters. Yes, that are they're from the Asian mixed martial arts fighters. Yes, do that. Let's go to one kick and one grappling.
I think and Todd, maybe you can either confirm or deny Japan. So it's weird because Japan is both while Japan is an insular island nation, also island mentality. There's a lot of companies that strive to be respected internationally, and I guess one comparison would be when New Japan had the collaboration with Ring of Honor, and Ring of Honor at the time was on Sinclair Broadcasting, which was syndicated television, all that stuff. And I think that that promotion like RIZIN, it gives them some sort of validation. Look at this. We are collaborating with an American television network, because that's the thing in Japan. Television is still still like number one in terms of what you want to have your thing on, terrestrial television or whatever. So by being connected with Bellator / Showtime, they can promote themselves as an international company that's on international television, and I get that looks good in the papers. That looks good in Gong. That looks good in Yahoo Sports. So I think there's some of that. I think there's some of that as well. That type of that international validation. If they could do it with UFC, I'm 100% guaranteed they do it with UFC if they could. But we all know that would never happen. Bellator can.
There are different ways to get into the market. Bellator wants to do it by the cooperation with domestic promotion, biggest Japanese promotion like RIZIN. As we know, one is have a different, let's say, rhetoric. Fuck the rest, we are the best, and we want to cooperate with anyone besides the UFC. And
Just the way your accent made it sound funnier than
Badass, Daniel.
Yeah.
I was like, yes. Fuck the rest. We're the best. That should be Rizin's motto. With a superior rule, that could be true.
and you can't underestimate the fact that Chatri is an ignorant asshole, and with a bigger ego bigger than Russia. So this is this kind of things. We know that guy from the UFC Asia said that they will aim to have a comeback show in 2024, but I think they are too arrogant to, and they can fail with this kind of attitude like this guy from UFC had in that article from some Asian source. But as I said before, there are different ways to get the market, and we know, well, Japanese market is very demanding and very difficult for the foreign companies.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off what you were saying, Daniel, and Drew actually also, because he was saying about how having an international TV deal is a big deal to give some legitimacy to them. I was thinking about from the We Are Rising podcast, I've been asking them. I think they should also be bragging about how many pay-per-views they're selling, because they've been selling a lot. John Nash, I think his name is, a Bloody Elbow Rider, does the financial stuff, said about how Sakakibara-san has been able to make the Epic RIZIN become the #2 promotion in the world monetarily, because they're doing massive gates, 20,000 plus people consistently, and they're selling 50,000. They're selling pay-per-views at $50 a pop for pay-per-views in Japan, and they're selling a lot of them. So I mean, that's pretty freaking good, and I think they should brag on their pay-per-view buys more. Like how the UFC does whenever they do a big successful show. They sit there and say, "Oh yeah, it's sold." Even if they make up the numbers, they say, "Oh, it's sold over 1 million, 2 million." And it's like sold over 500,000, whatever. It's still a lot, and I think they should do that as well. And like my main point about the collaboration, it brings in what Drew was talking about how the TV deal brings international recognition. That's the same thing that happens when you bring in international fighters. Like I was saying, telling Todd when he was asking about, saying about how Pride was back in the 2000s, how they didn't need to co-promote. That's because they were the peak. But getting the international recognition for them was a 2000 Grand Prix, where it had the UFC guys, like I was saying, Mark Coleman, Hoist Gracie. That brought international people from the UFC fan saying, "Oh, hey, look at this new promotion. What is this?" And then we see it and it's freaking awesome. And then we become fans of it. That is what I think their goal is with these collaboration bouts as well, is to have international fans that normally wouldn't even see, RIZIN for the epic promotion that it is. Now with these international fighters, elite international fighters going there, people find out about them, and the fans are like, "Hey, this promotion is freaking awesome." And this is the one that all these crazy fans online are talking about, the superior rule set. Holy crap, they allow stomps, flying stomps. This is freaking awesome. I want to check this out some more. That's the type of stuff that comes with international fighters. And like Drew was saying, with an international TV deal, that AJ McKee Satoshi-san bout that, a lot of people scored for Satoshi, but AJ McKee won that because of his striking. And he actually threw the first soccer kick and flying stomp that ever aired on Showtime. That's a huge deal. It just, just to pay, I'm talking too long here, but just to pay again, that's the point that Drew was making about how the TV deal, it brings them legitimacy, international stuff. Absolutely correct. And same thing with international fighters. That just brings legitimacy to it. Like it just, it just makes it cool. Okay. And the Epic RIZIN, what makes it cool is their superior rule set that allows, stomps, so all the good stuff. And now having these international collaboration events with these elite international fighters being unleashed on the superior rule set. And also having international TV deals and pay-per-view deals and stuff with Fight TV and Showtime and stuff like that. So it's all just, I'm telling you, it's all contributing to this new golden era we're in. It's just going to keep going and rising to the top, bro. It's just so much freaking fun. I just can't wait to watch and see it happen with you guys. It's just, man, I just can't talk enough about it. I mean, it's just I could go on for hours about this stuff, but you guys want to actually talk about the actual fights that are on this Super RIZIN card, or can we keep talking about how awesome the collaboration is?
Y'all can go. I mean, we can all go ahead and talk about the fights that are actually taking place on this card, even though I mentioned them earlier.
Yeah, but we didn't get to talk about it. You just listed them off.
I mean, yeah, we can go ahead and talk about the fights now.
We talked about some of them already. We did.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you were talking about how
I'm more interested in what could be booked for the show than the fights that they've already announced. That to me, I don't know if anybody like. I know you suggested Gustavo Takeda for
Tofik.
Tofik, yeah, Tofik. But who else? What like? Because so far the show, other than I'm gonna say 1.5 fights, I don't count the Juan Archuleta Kai fight as a Bellator versus RIZIN fight because
Why not?
that could have been Naoki Inoue versus Kai, and it wouldn't be, and it would be the one true Bellator versus RIZIN fight is the Horiguchi Shinryu fight. I'm like, are they gonna? This seems to be more like a show that has, yeah, like that show from 2019, or would that like, oh, we're just gonna have Bellator fighters on this card. I don't know that that's what they're going to. I don't know. Like, I'm curious to know what they're going to do with the other portion. I guess the RIZIN portion of this show.
Yeah. And it has some great theories on that we talk about with Teep on the show about the super presser. And we'll probably go into more of that. I guess tomorrow we're going to be doing a Bellator 297 preview, and I'm sure they're going to make some announcements at Bellator 297. Drew, that's this Friday.
J Wolf. They probably forgot the show is even happening. Big John McCarthy's gonna be like, what the fuck? We're in Japan.
I would think it would be more like Japanese versus Japanese fights. I would assume.
No,
Well,
you know what they're gonna do?
is that like, sorry, Jay Wolf.
I'll tell you exactly what they're gonna do. This is what the leading theory that Teep and I have come up with. So what they're gonna do, since the Bellator portion is doing the inaugural flyweight title, right, between Horiguchi and Shinryu. The RIZIN portion, they need flyweight fighters. I think it's going to be a flyweight showcase. We're going to get a flyweight Grand Prix belts. I think we're going to get a bunch of flyweight international guys come in there, and they're going to be, probably a lot of them are going to be signed to Bellator after the show. But I think a lot of those fights, the 9 to 12, no, there's only 9 bouts left that got announced because they already announced 3 for the super RIZIN portion. So we need 9 more. I think a lot of those are going to be flyweight belts. And there's going to be a lot. Also, there's going to be more Bellator fighters going over there. And I can't believe you're saying that Kai and Juan is not a Bellator versus RIZIN card. I mean, dude, that's like the best.
Could have been almost not one. J Wolf, don't forget that was a close fight between Inoue and Juan, and then it'll be RIZIN versus RIZIN. So, it's lucky that it became by happenstance. It became Bellator versus RIZIN. But what about those Hawaii? But other than Zach Zane, have we seen any of those other Hawaii guys get featured on RIZIN shows yet?
No, we have not yet.
We think the 6th bout for the Bellator portion, we're contemplating it could be Sumika, Lady Samurai, and Naba. She might be, because we've been asking Scotty Cokes to throw her on a collaboration card because she has great crossover appeal with the Japanese market because she's half Japanese, hot girl fighter, exciting. So we would like to see her on the show, on the Bellator portion. So, but for the RIZIN portion, I believe they're going to send some more guys over besides just Tofik. I think they're going to also, we don't know who that's going to be, but it's probably going to be for the lighter weight divisions. And, we saw, on Twitter, one of them, Jeremy Kennedy, was talking about, was tweeting in Japanese and saying he wants to fight in Japan. He's, of course, in their featherweight division, right? He was the one that was supposed to be fighting with Aaron Pico to decide, the next title challenger. But now Pico is fighting a different guy, and now Kennedy's about, right? And then they'll probably meet up in the end of the year for another title fight. So,
isn't Pico fighting this week, or did he have a fight recently?
No. Pico was fighting on the Dublin card, I believe. That's in September.
I think they should pull Pico from the Dublin card and put him on the RIZIN card. I'd love to see him on the RIZIN atmosphere rather than Jeremy Kennedy. I think Pico would be a much more exciting fight. Like that to me would be much more interesting fight. Like imagine, I don't know, Pico, I don't know. Like Pico versus Kleber if he wasn't champion, let's just say like that happened. Yeah.
It'd be awesome. It'd be awesome as awesome. Oh, I'm gonna cuss, Todd. I'm sorry. It'd be awesome as fuck. That's how awesome it'd fucking be. Okay, but look, what Pico's already booked, so we got and you know why they're doing that too, right? Is because Patricio Pound Pitbull is challenging Sergio Pettis and going for triple champ status. So now there is an opening at the featherweight. In the featherweight division in Bellator right now. So
okay, wait, hold on. So this is a super RIZIN card. They gotta have Hagiwara on it. They definitely gotta have Hagiwara on this card because I think he was definitely on the last the end of the year show. or Super Rising show. I think it was on both.
Well, I don't. Do you
Yeah.
think they want to use that much star power? They already have both Azakura Action Bros on there.
I mean, with what they're charging for fucking ticket prices for the show, listen, you might as well just go all fucking out, man.
Unfortunately, I'm not going there for this show.
Yeah, Daniel, you're gonna go to Japan and you're like, oh, I'm gonna go to Super Rising. Oh wait, $500 or whatever it was for like cheapest tickets. I'll wait till when they go to Nagoya or something.
Yes, but Nagoya shows always
It sucks.
delivered. But you know, on the paper, but Nagoya local shows was always outstanding, despite the weaker card. But what I wanted to ask two final questions about this card, or even not about this card, or it's more general about the event. Is it finally have? It has Saitama Arena stadium mode, or it's just a standard arena mode for 20K
standard
people?
arena mode. Remember that they announced it's going to be standard arena mode, and it's going to have a 20-something thousand capacity, not the 40,000 capacity of the stadium mode, right? So they did announce that, and we were guessing because they didn't go with having a Pacquiao exhibition on this Super Rising card. So that's why they didn't go the full stadium mode.
This is the good question. If they won't announce Pacquiao for this card for the Rising portion.
Nah, I don't think that's gonna happen. I mean, most likely because of the fact that it already cost enough. I mean, it already costs way too much money to get somebody of Manny Pacquiao stature or Floyd Mayweather stature who's beating up on John Gotti III as we speak. It costs way too much to, get a fighter like Mayweather or Pacquiao over to Japan. It's even worse if you put them on a card where they have no idea what the other fights are and want the opponent just to only fight their style. You know what I mean?
I'm happy. I'm happy that they did it. Also, if they did, that would be like the first fight they announced. That's not the fight that you announce like halfway through. Also,
that'd be the headliner.
That lawsuit is probably the best thing to happen because I think as long as Manny's in that lawsuit, he can't. I don't think he can actually fight or something.
Is that what's happening?
I believe him and his manager are being sued for something because I think it was money owed or something There was something, and it's it has to do with his exhibition fights were not actual fights, so he didn't have to pay his man. I don't know. It's confusing. I don't know, but I think.
So why would that prevent him from fighting though? I mean, you think
because
it make him light a fire in his butt to make him want to fight some more and make some money?
It's kind of like insurance, if you get into a car accident and you want to collect on the insurance, but you can't be training or whatever or something. It's kind of I feel like it's something like that where he can't because we haven't heard anything from him. It's been radio silence. That's
got to be because of that lawsuit, like you're saying. That's got to be what it is for sure.
And also, listen, Mikuru's on the card, so you don't need any Mayweather horse shit or whatever. So it's better. It's better in the end. It's much better in the end.
And you know what, guys? Since you were saying you don't think that Scotty Coates and Bellator is going to be talking about it this Friday for Bellator 297, well, on Teep's show on Monday, we're going to have the Bellator zone, bro, Santiago on there. And he's on the official rankings panel, and he's the one where he broke the news in the Epic RIZIN Discord. He broke news to us first on Teep's show, but then I broke it in the Epic RIZIN Discord about how Lorenz Larkin was going to be part of the Epic RIZIN Bellator collaboration mega event, and that actually came to fruition. So on this show tomorrow with Teep and Santiago, I'm going to ask him again. I'm going to see if he can give us a hint on who that sixth bout for the Bellator portion of Super RIZIN or the Super RIZIN 2, what that sixth bout for the Bellator portion will be, and maybe he might even have some insider info on who they're planning on thinking about booking for the RIZIN portion. And what possibly more Bellator fighters going over there. I'm gonna get some more of that info out of him. We'll see how it goes. But I'll definitely be doing that, and I'll report back to you guys in the Epic RIZIN Discord and on Twitter and stuff, and I'll let you guys know. So, and everybody listening, if you ain't part of the RIZIN Discord, make sure you get in there. It's a lot of fun. Everybody you see on this panel right here, we're all in the Epic RIZIN Discord. It's a lot of fun. So join there, and you might get some breaking news. And Todd, what do you want to say?
I'm not in it yet, but I'll get with you on it.
Oh,
One guy who won. There were a few guys that got picked from the RIZIN tryouts. One of them is a featherweight, Dustin Kimura, who I trained with quite a bit when I lived there. Maybe we'll see him on Super RIZIN.
Yeah,
Ooh, nice.
I remember,
maybe.
like he was in UFC, I think, right? Was he also in
He
UFC?
was, yes, he was.
Yeah, I was wondering. I'm surprised that RIZIN didn't just go like book him already, because he was I saw all the names of all the people that they signed or who attended the tryout, and he was the name that was the name that like stuck out the most. That I immediately knew off the bat. I didn't have to do any research. I'm surprised they didn't. That like he has not. I don't know if there's a reason, but yeah, put him on this. Do something with Dustin Kimura. Something, I don't know. Did you have another question, Daniel? Did you have another question?
Yes, another question was because it's the comeback of Golden Series of RIZIN, so Super RIZIN, and the first edition of this, which took place in September last year, had two parts as well, but it was built different, because we had Super RIZIN, which was like a fighting variety show with a Mayweather, which was against Mikuru, which was the main event, and then we had regular numbers RIZIN event, which was RIZIN 38 from what I remember, with Kyoji. And then we have right now we have a change of concept, because we have Super RIZIN, but it's named RIZIN with Bellator co-promotion. And I would like to ask you, which concept for you is better, more fun for you?
Oh, yeah, you already know the collaboration, Daniel. The collaboration in Bellator is, I mean, I think it's the best thing going in mixed martial arts today. But
Jay, you have to remember that right now we have more like a Bellator Japan too, as you said before. It's not like the clash of promotions like we had on New Year's Eve. It's like more like a Bellator Japan back in the December 2019, because we have Bellator and clearly Bellator part, and then we have clearly RIZIN part. And it's
what you're talking about is because the Bellator portion is under the pussified unified rules of UFC. That's the difference. And the RIZIN portion is, of course, under the superior rule set awesomeness of Epic RIZIN. But what I'm saying is that they're going to be having some more Bellator fighters on the RIZIN portion under the superior rule set awesomeness, besides just Juan Archuleta and Tofik Musayev. There's going to be other guys going over there, and possibly other female fighters as well. Because a lot of people, not just Jeremy Kennedy was talking about he always wanted to fight in Japan. Johnny Eblin was talking about, but I know he's headlining the Dublin card, not him. Of course, Chris Cyborg also was talking about always wanting to fight in Japan, throw soccer kicks.
There's also no middleweights in Japan. There's nobody for him to fight. He's probably better than every middleweight in Japan. Like honestly. So
no, I mean,
of course, he's better than every middleweight in Japan. He's the human cheat code.
Yeah, he's probably the best middleweight on the planet right now, arguably. At least one of them.
By the way, Cyborg told me, I asked her, she messaged me about this PFL Bellator stuff, and I said, "Will you fight in Bellator? Why don't you just ask Scott Coker?" And she said, "Well, he said it's a possibility, so take that."
That's what he always says. That's what he always says in all the press conferences. Whenever he's asked, like, "Oh, you guys possibly gonna be signing whoever who was UFC," he'll be like, "Well, Yada yada yada. Yada. It's a possibility. That's what he always says. It's a possibility. That's his answer to everything that like
No,
he
but
can't answer.
Did you guys see?
So
read
he
his
didn't
interview
even
with
deny
MMA
it
Planet?
when
Yeah.
he could have.
Well, he did in the interview with MMA Planet in Japan. He said he denied it, said they're not for sale, said they're sticking around and they're just getting investors. That's what he said. That was a story.
that was that in Japanese though. That was that article translated from Japanese.
Yes, by King Silo in the
Who's
Epic
gonna
Rise.
invest in Bellator? Come on. They're
I'm-
not gonna. They
Who the
would have
heck would
done it
invest in
already
Puss
if they were
FL?
gonna do that.
Why would you invest in Puss FL with no elbows and a pussified playoff system where they don't even do
Because
one
they're
night?
on ESPN and Bellator's not.
I was just about to say that they're on ESPN.
Bellator is on Showtime, a pay channel, subscription channel where they score 100,000 views, paid subscription views each event.
PFL gets 330,000 just this
Yeah,
week alone.
free cable channels. That's ridiculous. That's terrible. The WNBA gets
ESPN's not free. I don't think ESPN's free, is it?
it's
I
on
don't know.
it's on basic cable, Drew. Come on.
Is it
Come
on
on.
basic cable?
Yes. Yes.
It was at ESPN too.
No. Why would
I
ESPN
don't know.
2 be on basic
I
cable,
don't
not
know.
ESPN?
I don't
bro?
know.
Come
I don't know.
on.
I just siphon off my dad whenever I need to watch ESPN. So yeah. Also, it's not even Jay. It's also the presentation. When you watch it, like just the way that PFL presents their shows is so much more than just what Bellator does with their shows.
I guess. I mean, all PFL really has, like you said, and I like to call it the Puss FL because no elbows
Pride FL.
and no one night tournament one night Grand Prix playoffs. Come on, that is pussified. That is terrible. I mean, even if you
Soon you'll
can't
be
get with
calling them the
one-night Grand
purchase FL because they're gonna purchase Bellator.
Prix. That was a good one, Todd. That was genius. Todd dropping the bombs. that was awesome. No, but hey, look, the no elbows part is the worst of it all. Okay, that's the worst of it all. I mean, how can you not have elbows?
Well,
That's ridiculous.
Because elbows cut people, and if somebody gets a cut,
Oh,
they're
cry
gone
me.
for the season.
You see this? This is the world's tiniest violin playing for you. They allowed
No, I
elbows.
agree with that 100%. How many fights you seen where a guy barely gets nicked by the elbow and the cut's like this big, and they stop the fight and it barely landed. The sharp point of the elbow doesn't have to land hard. I can't stand when that stuff happens. I
But it
can't
doesn't happen
stand
a
it.
lot. And remember the tough. This is a great example that I brought up in the RIZIN Discord. Was when this exact same conversation was happening about the elbows and how the quick turnaround because of the cuts. Well, the Tough Live, remember they had days turnaround, like a week tops turnaround in between their fights, right? And they still allowed elbows in that tournament, in that tough tournament, and it was perfectly fine. I do not buy that excuse.
I think also it's also commission related. Yeah, the tough fights are technically exhibitions, if I'm correct, right? They're not pro, right? So they don't have to go. It's the same. Like remember when Invicta was doing the one night things? I think they had to do like a whole bunch of concessions just to do that.
Because in Invicta and Combate Global, when they were doing their 8-man and 8-woman one night Grand Prix, they have to go.
What man was in Invicta?
What?
I was about to say what man was in Invicta because you said 8-man tour. I'm like, wait, what? Am I?
No. Combate Global. Combate Global. They're called the Copa Combates, where 8-man one night Grand Prix, and Invicta is the Phoenix Series tournament, which is 8-woman one night Grand Prix. But see, they are constrained by the pussified unified rules, which only allows for a total of 25 minutes total. So they had to do for the first two, the quarterfinals and semis, they had to do one 5-minute round. And that was the fights. And then the final would be a full 3 round 5 minutes each. So
I attended the first PFL show that was in New York, and the people who ran the PFL told me that they had to make all these concessions because also this is New York where MMA is still like a fucking Wild West up here with the commission. So they had to make there's a reason they didn't come to New York for like a long time after their like first run because they just couldn't stand working with the New York State Athletic Commission. So it might be it may not be a PFL thing, J Wolf. It might be a commission thing that says, okay, if you want to run a tournament, you can't do this. Because I think that they allow elbows for the finals, I believe.
Okay, well, that's at least they do that. But you're talking about those first shows, they had the one night Grand Prix playoffs when they still did that within the unified rules, which is they had the semifinals were the quarterfinals were 2 rounds, 2 5-minute rounds, and then the semifinals were 3 5-minute rounds. That kept it in the 25-minute
because also
time.
remember those fights also that didn't where there was no finish had to go to a draw, and then they had to just pick somebody. So that's why like a bunch of fighters from PFL have like draws in their records, or like nobody like American fighters never get draws or fights in America.
It's clear they have an inferior rule set. That's why they are the Puss FL. And if you don't want to use the tough example because it's
the Purchase FL.
I got to run, so let's kind of wrap it up. I want you guys to go around, and Daniel, maybe start with you, where people can find what you're doing and some, whatever else.
Okay, you mean the communication channels, yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because sorry, it's 5 a.m. right now, and
I
I'm
gotta run too.
getting tired a bit. Okay, follow me on Twitter first and foremost. D Jubitsky. You have to just find my name and surname, and then you will see all the stuff. JMMA Beats. That's where you can listen to me. Also. An Instagram account. Of course, you are not. If you are not Polish speakers, you can find my stuff, especially on this channel. So at JMMA Beat and my Twitter, D Jubitsky. That's what I say. That's what I said. That's all.
And WOTOR. Remember, you're the commentator for WOTOR.
Not anymore. Probably they have a show. They have a show scheduled day before the RIZIN, and nobody contacted me so far.
I officially think we should start a hashtag cancel WOTOR or
let's get Daniel
boycott WOTOR or bring back Daniel.
That's right.
WOTOR.
Absolutely.
But I wish them good luck because their format is an exciting thing.
Absolutely.
Okay, Jay Wolf, what about you?
Oh, you want me to go next? Okay, yeah, sure. I'll go next. Just to finish up, I want to say before I do that, besides a tough, since you wouldn't allow the tough to be an example, the Epic RIZIN does one night Grand Prix finals as well, Pride style, with a semifinals, finals one night. And they allow elbows, including 12 to 6 elbows. So what's Puss FL's excuse? Oh,
wait, you said Pride? You said Pride?
Yeah, no, the Pride style where they had the semifinals and final in one night. The one night Grand Prix finals Pride style.
I don't think Japan has the same type of commissions that we do here in the United States. I don't know if that's the best example.
Okay. All right, hey, all right, well, we'll wrap it up because Todd wants to go and Daniel is early there. But okay, so you can follow me on Twitter at JAYYOLF1. It's misspelled on purpose, so you know it's me. It's been that way since all the way back in the mid-2000s. That's how you know it's me. If you're a real person, I'll follow you back. Also, tomorrow night, a Monday night or possibly Wednesday night, but this week I'll be on Teep to the Junks, a Bellator preview show. It's on his YouTube channel, Random Acoustic Thoughts. And it'll be the inordinately long preview, Bellator 297 preview. Then we'll also be doing a review show. And Teep lets me talk about Epic RIZIN, everything. It's freaking awesome. So tune into that. And also catch us on the Epic RIZIN Discord server that Drew runs. And it's a lot of fun in there. And yeah, just follow us all those 3 spots. And can't wait to tune in with you guys to these Epic RIZIN events, this collaboration. It's the new golden era. It's just so much fun. And thank you again, Todd, for having me on here to talk about this with you guys. This is awesome.
Okay, well, Andrew, I mean, do you want to go ahead and plug our show or should I?
I'll take care of it. We Are Rising podcast at We Are Rising Pod, available on YouTube and SoundCloud and Stitcher and Apple thing. And I also write for MMAsucker.com. So yeah, and subscribe to the PFL Discord as well.
Oh Lord. Andrew, you are a card. And I don't mean Texas Hold'em either. I mean, you are a real character. But still, though, considering the fact that I also represent one half of the
Oops.
podcast, I can also vouch for Andrew in saying, feel free to subscribe to our content. We're available not just on YouTube, but on every single platform that there is: YouTube, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast from. The same can also be said for my podcast, Focus Fights Audio, where you can also get your podcast. Well, we're not on YouTube. Let's be real. I'm trying to bust my ass in order to make that happen to where we're on YouTube, but we are on every platform there is. And I do have an
interview with
interview.
Lokoku. Remember, don't forget the plug interview coming up.
Yeah, I still have a bunch of interviews I need to put up for future episodes of Focus Fights Audio. I have an interview coming up, I think this upcoming weekend, with a regional MMA fighter from Oklahoma. I still have the interview with Carlos Puente Jr. I need to put up, even though he just recently had a fight. I had interviews with 2 professional wrestlers in Reality of Wrestling prospect Josiah Jean and New Japan of America star Royce Isaacs that I also need to put up because they recently had matches as well. But more importantly than all that, if you happen to be checking me out later, which unfortunately you can't, I run this by myself, but still though, I hope to get an interview up this week with Daryl Lukoku, who will be facing off against Minoru Philip Kimura at RIZIN 43 in less than 2 weeks. I hope to get that interview up within the course of this week. So if you basically don't see any interview up about Daryl Lukoku on the We Are Rising YouTube channel or in a separate article on focusfights.world, which we are trying our damnedest to do and work on right now, then please inform me on Twitter at ChrisGary92 or on Instagram at ChristianGary1992 about it. Other than that, that's all the plugs I got. That's it from us for now. Todd, anything you would like to say since this is your show?
It was the Oklahoma fighter you're interviewing.
I think his name is Samson Tabimeyer.
Oh yeah, man. No, yeah. Good guy. He's from Okmulgee, Oklahoma, which is not far from where I am. Yeah. Good guy.
Okay. Just wanting to know. Other
All
than
right.
that, your show.
I appreciate you
close
guys
this out.
as always. You guys put a lot of effort into this. I record these, but I would say Daniel's the host, and you guys always do a great job, man, of doing. I'm just kind of along for the ride on these shows, but we all were in, I was big in Japan MMA. All these guys are. We'd like to see it come up again to where it was. And it takes passion, like I talked about earlier, people that are passionate about it, like us, other people, that can keep this kind of conversation alive. So I appreciate you guys, all you guys putting the time in and stuff. I appreciate that stuff greatly. So anytime you guys want to do something, just let me know.
Thanks, brother.
No problem.
Thanks.
It was an honor.
Other
Take
than that,
care. You too.
see y'all later.
Yep.
Peace.